All right, we're live.
It's kind of
What's
crazy.
up, everybody? How you doing?
Hi, everyone. Hello.
All right. Hello. Okay, we've got a big show today. I'm super stoked about it.
Such a big show.
Put maybe too much time into coming up with the plan for this show.
Did
So
you?
it better be good. Like 2 hours? Shouldn't have spent.
Wow. Thank you.
I really wanted it to be so good.
It's going to be good.
I think it should be. I mean, it's our first kind of main one. Got to come out strong, you know?
That's true.
But we have some people here, so that's nice. I see 4 people watching at the moment.
Nice. Josh made the effort to say hello.
All right.
So we make the effort to say hello back. Hey, Josh.
All right, so let's just give her. Guess what, Brian? I'm just going to use the ads I recorded yesterday, so we don't even need to record ads. We'll just have to mark ad times, and that's that.
Okay.
Easy.
Easy.
Okay. Oh, I didn't press the button to start the... Okay, whatever. Okay, mistake times. I'll just remember it's 1 minute off. Maybe we won't even have any mistake times, and then we won't even need it.
Like, I could see that happening for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely happened before, so it could easily happen again.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the law of probabilities, isn't it?
Is that the law of probabilities?
Yeah, it could happen before. I didn't know. It's the law. I don't.
Maybe we have to look it up. What is the law of probabilities? Does anyone know?
What's someone needs to write the law of fantasy hockey probabilities.
That's fun. What's do you think the law of fantasy hockey in general?
Yeah. Like, I'd say the law of fantasy hockey probabilities is that a player will do better shortly after he leaves my roster.
I was going to think the law of fantasy hockey probabilities is if I can't think of a player to drop, someone will eventually just get injured. So you don't need to. So you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
It's especially when sometimes people ask when... You know, they're like Barkov is out now for 2-3 weeks, right? They'll be like, "Oh, who do you think I should drop when Barkov comes back?" And it's like, calm down. There's a lot of injuries to come, my friend. You don't need to worry about that.
So many injuries between now and then. It's crazy.
Okay. All right. I'm ready to do this. Maybe that should have been on the show. We blew it. But now it's good because now the show will be only, tight content.
It'd be really great to have
our jokes out of the way. Ooh, what should we do? I have unlimited time, by the way, Brian, so I'm good today to meander and wait. So yeah, hit me.
Okay. I would actually love to, keep focused as usual.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say I didn't grab it during prep.
What?
I'd love to be able to say the cupful rostered of players as we...
Okay, go to cupful.com/tools, your favorite website.
Yeah.
And it's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just do it on the fly.
Yeah,
Database, it takes a little...
plan ahead. Well, we have a script,
moment.
So, but it's tricky because I want you to listen, but also, you might need to look in advance. So we'll see how it goes, I guess. But yeah, that's definitely good content to bring up. I agree.
But also, if I type in Huberdeau...
Yes. Do you want me to look into how to do it? Okay, let me go to it also.
Oh, I need to take away the division, I think.
Okay.
Let's see.
No,
it just says no... Oh, there we go. Okay, I got it.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't dove into it yet.
100%.
Because look, man, I'm
don't
trying
have
to
the
play
trends.
myself. I don't want to be affected by the masses.
Yeah.
But I probably should.
Be affected by the masses?
I don't know. Sometimes you feel like you should and sometimes you shouldn't, right?
In
some of my draft picks
you...
I'm already upset about, and some of them I'm really happy I didn't listen to the masses. So.
Yeah. I'm afraid to see. I think I took Jack Quinn 1 pick ahead of Gunther.
I wish I took Gunther. I think that I didn't have that option. I hope.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm wrong.
Okay, phew.
But
whatever.
I did take him
Quinn.
3 picks before Huberdeau.
Well, whatever.
Shucks. Shuckles.
But did you win your matchup?
Yeah.
So who cares? Huberdeau's not going to keep... Or maybe you're going to say that Huberdeau will keep this up.
I guess we'll
find
see.
out. We'll find out. Let's
I guess
start the show.
we'll see.
I don't feel the urgency also because it doesn't feel like anyone's here because no one's saying anything, but I do see 5 eyeballs. So I guess we should
We should
actually be
start.
somewhat interesting.
What are we
to
waiting
someone.
for?
Though maybe we're motivated to not make the video as entertaining because then we don't get podcast downloads when people watch the video.
So the usual caveat, like request still applies. If you enjoy the podcast on YouTube, could you please just like subscribe and set your like app to auto download and maybe listen to it via
Maybe with
your
multiple devices and services.
No, we're technically. I think we're breaking some kind of contract by saying that.
Whose contract? We don't have a contract with anybody.
We're with a net. There's in all those ad contracts, even if they're not like directly through us. There's definitely things about like juicing download numbers.
I'm not saying to juice download numbers. I'm saying you never know which device you're going to be on when you want to get that Keeping Karlsson fix. So just to make sure you get it when you need it, subscribe on all your devices. And also, you don't know. What if like you're subscribed on Apple Podcasts and then the day you want to listen, like Apple Podcasts has is an outage and they're down. Then what are you going to do? Luckily, you subscribed on Spotify. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying to juice the downloads. I'm just saying to help the listeners.
Okay. That's really kind of you.
Yeah.
It's really thoughtful.
If I get sued, that'd be a crazy way. We're going to get sued for something one day. It would be wild if it was for that. But I guess it's going to have to be for something.
It's going to have to be for something.
We have a friend that's a lawyer. It's fine. He'll help us out.
We do?
Yeah, Ariel.
Ariel.
Yeah.
Ariel will get us out of anything.
I think he will.
I think he would. Wow,
I mean,
this is such a different experience podcasting with you without like your hard 10 o'clock. Like you would be like you are meandering already.
No, I'm ready to start. Let's
Me
go.
too.
Ooh, I was going to drink a beer though. Maybe halfway through we'll take a break and I'll grab a beer.
What? This is wild. This is changing the whole energy of the show.
Okay. Well, let's get on track here. Let's do it.
I'm not sure this is going to be good.
It might be a shit show.
You need to pretend that you have a serial appointment.
Okay, well,
at
yeah,
10
I'd love
o'clock.
to. I think it shouldn't be a 2-hour show. It should
At
be an
9
hour and a half
o'clock.
show.
Yeah, your serial is
okay.
at 9 o'clock.
Okay, and we're starting at 7:20. We're gonna do an ad break every 30 minutes. Okay, so 7:50 is the ad break. Okay. Yay! Yes, that's the yell of someone who's won his first matchup of Kakapful. Welcome everybody to the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Pet. I forgot the name of the show. I got too excited.
Also, the yell of someone who's not going to wake anyone up by yelling.
Yeah, okay,
That's your
do it again.
biggest one in a long time.
And I'm not even gonna use it.
I love it.
Yay! Yes! That's the yell of someone who's won his first week of Kakapful. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest-running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by two guys who are hoping to make a podcast episode that's not as pointless as Austin Matthews has been so far. Zing! I'm your host, Elon Dubrovsky, and with me to break down the first official week of NHL action, it is my very good friend, the fantasy hockey robot, the Poobah prognostication, the IPP MVP himself, Brian Com. Brian, how's it going?
Hey, I am doing so good. We're two winners this week. I'm curious to know how many points you put up.
Probably less than you. I've seen your players go off this week. I have 182 currently, but I have a bunch of guys playing today. 7 players playing today. What are you at?
Okay, I'm at 201, and I've got 3 players playing.
What's
today.
your projection? My projection is 218.
Okay, I'm at 212. So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll
It'll
see
be a battle.
Yeah, and like I haven't locked it up yet. Kevin Hebert, Kakapful commish coordinator, had a great Marco Rossi stream, which we'll talk about again later in the episode. Listen, I got a lot of things going my way this week, and I'm not going to at all pretend I'm unhappy or upset about it. Like I'm going to take the bounces when they come. I'm going to soak and bask because we'll see how many more come my way. But it's been a fun first fantasy week. So many things are happening, and Elon, I'm thrilled for the opportunity to break it all down with you.
Yeah, we've got a stacked show plan today. I'm really excited about it. As I was writing it, I was thinking, like, I can't wait to just say this. I'm writing it. I just want to say it. And now I will. I get the chance. Lucky me. Lucky everybody. I guess, obviously, Keeping Karlsson, proudly presented by DobberHockey.com. Check it out for all your fantasy hockey content. But, Brian, I think let's just get right into it, okay? We're going to jump around the league. I've tried to make little connections as we go to keep it flowing, but really I just got so much I want to get out. So I'm going to start somewhere, right? Like people are probably wondering, where are they going to start? It can start so many places. Let's go to Calgary, okay? Because a really crazy thing happened yesterday that I didn't think would maybe ever happen again. Jonathan Huberdeau had 4 points. That's right, Jonathan Huberdeau was good. Calgary won 6-3 against Philly. And yeah, 4-point game for Huberdeau. He also had an assist in the other game that Calgary's played so far. So that's 5 points in 2 games. Huberdeau's not the only Flame that is producing right now. This team has gone nuts in both of these games. Like Kuzmenko, Kadri, Pospisil, they all have 4 points in 2 games. By the way, Pospisil's points, all at even strength. Is it maybe time for us to update our Calgary expectations? I feel a lot of people going into the season were like, you may want to, steer clear of Calgary. They don't have that much depth. I mean, this team's scoring a ton of goals. And I guess the more specific question with Jonathan Huberdeau, is there any chance that he is like back to being the Jonathan Huberdeau that we used to podcast about? Or is now like the obvious, like sell high, if you can get someone that was drafted like 2 rounds ahead of him, like do it right away?
Huberdeau was someone I distinctly remember, Elon. I DM'd you when I had a pick coming up in the Cupful. It was about the 12th round. I'm sorry, I don't have the number, but you can do the math. There's 14 managers in the league. And I had Huberdeau on my radar, and I'm like, okay, maybe this is about the time. I went for Jack Quinn, and you said, you were like, no, like, why would you? Like, I'm over. And I think that's when you actually gave me your whole philosophy. Like, I'm over these guys who have like been disappointing. I'm looking for the new hotness, not the old hotness. Like, if you've let me down, we're through, which was fair. And I liked that. And I was hoping he might come back to me. He didn't. I actually am not even sure that I would have taken him when if he wasn't gone at the turn from Matt in my draft. All this to say, Jonathan Huberdeau has made a lot of folks sad that they passed on him when they had the chance, even for this first week. Elon, I'm not gonna say like the old Huberdeau is back, but I'm heartened by the early returns here. First off, for all of Calgary, we at least need to name that as a team they're shooting 21% in all situations, which is about twice as much, a little more than twice as successfully as they shot last season. They were kind of middle of the pack, almost 10% shooters in all situations last season, which is about what you'd expect. So we're seeing some early shooting luck for everyone in Calgary. One thing that I'm really enjoying from Huberdeau so far, though, is 6 shots in 2 games, because so far as a Flame, he's been getting fewer than 2 shots per game on average, and some weeks has gone for long stretches with 0s and 1s. So I love seeing 3 shots per game for Huberdeau. He's done this a few times before, most recently in his 115-point season, which was the last one that he played with Florida before being traded for Matthew Tkachuk. So I'm going to watch and see if these shot counts hold up, because right now under the hood, things are looking really good. Like, he's actually, like, if you're taking his time on ice into account, Huberdeau is shooting 3 times as often. Like, he 3 times as many shots are hitting the net per 60 minutes as has been the case so far for his time as a Flame, and twice as much for the Panthers. So I'm not sure it's going to hold up all the way, but like his shot attempts are through the roof, also twice what they've been for basically his whole career. So I love that Huberdeau has come out shooting. And I'm going to hope, like, even when the shooting percentage magic early on here wears off, that those shots will still remain, and that will give us something to continue to be excited about and hopeful that maybe Huberdeau, I'm still going to stay like conservative, and like I'm looking for 70 points from him this year. Like, if we were looking for a good season, that would be the first sign that he's on his path to 70 points, is if Huberdeau can sustainably put up 3 shots a night.
Interesting. Okay, so you're saying not necessarily to sell for a couple rounds earlier if you're thinking that 70 points is within reach. I guess the one thing that I'm looking at is like that second game where he had 4 points, and I apologize, he actually had a goal in the first game against Calgary, not an assist. But yeah, in that second game, the goalie was Ivan Fedotov, and everyone on Twitter is talking about how like Fedotov wasn't like very good for Philly, so it will be interesting to see as Calgary plays against some tougher opponents. But yeah, obviously probably no one is going to give you like a really great return for Huberdeau at this point, but definitely something to watch. And it would be interesting, and it would be great for Calgary if he goes back to being a star player, of course. And by the way, speaking of goalies for Calgary, they put Dan Vladar in for the first game. he was not very good. He let in 5 goals on 25 shots against the Canucks. The Flames still won 6-5 because, like I mentioned, they now score 6 goals a game. That's just the new Calgary Flames. But then Dustin Wolf came in for the second game of the year over Philly, and Wolf was really good, right? He got the win, only let in 3 goals. I wonder if this is the start. Like, when I saw Vladar start the first game, I was like, what? Oh, I guess maybe Wolf isn't the starter because I just assumed that he'll be the starter because how could it be Vladar? But maybe the plan still is going to be to alternate for a little bit, but I do have a hunch that just Dan Vladar is not very good. And again, we need more data, but Wolf does definitely look interesting to me. If he's in free agency, Brian, like, do you look at him as a likely starter or still just like probably just 50-50 as was the plan at the start of the year?
I was really surprised that Dan Vladar got the start on opening night, mind you. Like, I was not listening to Calgary Flames like sports talk radio leading up to the night, but I think I've been pretty vocal over the offseason that Dan Vladar doesn't look like an NHL goalie, and that benefits Dustin Wolf as someone who should get a chance just because why not, right? Unless Calgary's getting shelled every night and they want to protect Dustin Wolf from that. I can tell you that at 5-on-5, here's the interesting nugget, Elon. At 5-on-5, Vladar and Wolf, according to their Delta Fenwick save percentage, actually played reasonably similarly. The difference is that Vladar, in his 48 minutes so far at 5-on-5, had an expected Fenwick save percentage of 918, and Dustin Wolf got much better protection. 957 was his expected Fenwick save percentage, and they both played above it by about 15 save points. Wolf was fantastic. Vladar was actually, the numbers tell me, you can argue with the numbers, sure, but the number at 5-on-5, that Vladar actually had a good night. But the Flames,
but what about on
played
the shorthanded?
Yeah, well, okay, so yeah, he struggled shorthanded as goalies do, but we don't necessarily consider that to be like a persistent and repeatable like struggle, right? Like that can fluctuate wildly. So that's why I look at 5-on-5, and a 5-on-5 Vladar save percentage, like raw save percentage, was still 895, which is bad, and Wolf's was 964, which is good. But if you account for the difference in protection they got, Calgary really buckled down. Like I don't know if they made some adjustments or it was just a better match in style for their opponent for Wolf's game versus Vladar, but they really shut things down for Dustin Wolf in a way they did not for Dan Vladar.
Interesting. So you're kind of saying like it's too early to just say, like, and obviously I guess this whole podcast we should just say we're talking like 1 or 2, maybe 3 games for each of these teams. So we're not going to read too much into it, but we're going to have fun, and I'm going to make wild questions to Brian that he's going to have to cool me down on because that's what this is all about. But yeah, you're probably right that it's too early to just be like, okay, now Wolf is going to be the volume starter. But I just have this is more hunchy for me, that I just feel like as more games go on, I think that Wolf will start getting more and more, but that might not come for another couple of weeks. And Calgary only plays 2 times next week, Tuesday, Saturday. So it might be frustrating to add Dustin Wolf just to get a single game. But if you can get him at the right time, I think there's going to be something there. Sticking with Calgary a little longer, I just want to do a quick brag because I have definitely a few things I have to eat crow on. But so far, my Mackenzie Weegar hype, I think I nailed it, right? He's picking up right from where he was last year. In the 2 games, he's got 2 goals, 6 shots, an assist also, so 3 points in 2 games. Also 6 hits, 6 blocks. Mackenzie Weegar's just always there. He serves, right? And I don't know, maybe sometimes serves is like means something different. I mean, like, I'm hungry and Weegar feeds me like what I'm looking for. Like, I'm so excited every time Calgary plays because I just know Uyghur's going to give it to me. I felt it last year. I was excited to draft him, and so far, so good. I think jury is still out on my decision to draft Uyghur over Moritz Seider. And I remember then I was saying, like, I feel pretty confident Uyghur's better than Seider. Like, in the first game, Seider was on the second power play, and I was like, yeah, I think I was right. And but then in the second game for Detroit, Gustafsson was a healthy scratch, and Seider got on the top power play for the 3-0 win over Nashville. And Seider has 2 assists in 2 games, so not too shabby. And also, he had 8 hits and 7 blocks in Detroit's game against Nashville. I'm talking about Seider here. So, Brian, just for fun, if you had to pick right now, Uyghur versus Seider, let's say in couple format, but obviously it's pretty similar, like in a multi-category format. I feel like they both provide kind of similar things. So what's your hunch of who's going to be the more valuable fantasy asset this year?
Okay. Well, you said, like, Uyghur's picked up where he left off last year, and where he left off last year, we've talked about this, was a high shooting percentage, and he's picked up with that too, with
Yeah.
two goals on not a whole lot of on 6 shots.
I
But
mean,
they
find
did.
me any guy in the league that's got 2 goals so far this season that doesn't have a high shooting percentage.
Yeah, well, sure. I absolutely point taken. I think
How's
my
Huberdeau's
I think
shooting
my point
percentage?
is that for Uyghur to continue what he did last year, he's going to have to continue this shooting this well all the way through. So to say, like that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he can't do it, Elon. This is not a personal attack on you
That's
or
fair. That's
Mackenzie
fair.
Uyghur. Both goals have come on the power play for Uyghur, which is interesting. He's taken these shots. He's scored both his goals from just above and between the circles, the face-off circles. So whether that becomes a trend, that's where the Flames are siphoning or filtering or passing what I'm directing their power play chances through. Hey, that could be really good news for Mackenzie Weegar and a way for him to shoot and succeed in scoring more often than a defenseman usually would. But you know what? Even just with 6 shots, Elon, a pedestrian defenseman's shooting percentage, which is like above 5%, they'll still do him real good. Versus Moritz Seider, I think it's about as even as I did before. Just like I think Seider and Uyghur are probably reasonably close. Like the argument I was making in the offseason was that they're kind of close, even with Seider on the second power play unit. And Seider has that opportunity to get some more gravy on the top power play if he gets a lot of play there. I know you're big on Uyghur. I want you to know I'm not putting him down at all. It's a very exciting start for those who invested in him and a very vindicating and validating one too.
Yeah, you notice I didn't ask the sell high question like I did for Huberdeau because I don't want to hear the answer because he's not for sale. Okay, everybody. But okay, speaking of Sider and his Detroit Red Wings, let's switch over to Detroit now and their goalie, Cam Talbot. Is this a rerun? Cam Talbot having a good start to the season. He had a 40-save shutout over Nashville, which was much better than Ville Husso fared in the first game. If you recall last week when we were doing our mega episode talking through each team in the preseason, I was talking about how Husso had a great preseason. Maybe he can reestablish himself somewhat. Nope. He stunk, and now he's on waivers. So we'll see if another team claims him. I'm sure they won't because he's making like what, 4.5 million a year. So Husso's probably going to the minors. So it's not going to be a 3-headed monster, at least for now. In Detroit, it's looking like it'll be Talbot and Alex Lyon. I guess now the question, now that we have this new piece of information, and now that we've seen Cam Talbot just shut out the Stamkos and Marchessault Nashville Predators, right? Like, how excited are we? Like last year, a lot of people saw Cam Talbot start really strong with LA and thought, it's Cam Talbot, come on, and didn't add him, and then like really regretted it for a while until eventually he ended up, not being able to hold up for the whole season. But is this going to happen again? Like, do we need to be recommending to people now that he is essentially, I think, the starter, and Alex Lyon is the backup at least to start, starting goalie on Detroit? Good first game. Like, I'm just curious, like, how serious should we be about Cam Talbot? Maybe we could compare him to a Dustin Wolf we brought up earlier.
Talbot played really, really well in his debut with Detroit. And I wonder if this is a theme, right? Because I'm trying to remember. I don't fully remember when Talbot started with Ottawa, whether he came in really strong. Maybe maybe I'll see if I can find that out. But he started strong with LA. Now he's starting strong with Detroit. Good for Cam Talbot. You know that I have a hard time buying in, right? This is his age 37 season. He hasn't been good for a little while. I am looking at his starts with Ottawa. He started really well. He stopped all 13 shots in his first game in 2022. I think he came on in relief though. And somehow still got a loss. I'm not sure how that. Oh no, he didn't. The team did. This is meandering a little bit. Sorry, but then he had a .929 save percentage in his first full game that season with the Sens. I feel like if Cam Talbot plays well for a few weeks, you're gonna want to find a team desperate for goaltending in your league and send him away. That's
Right.
where I am going to be with Cam Talbot. I'm not going to write off the possibility that he can be solid for the first few months of the season, but the come down is going to come. And Alex Lyon, I think, is probably the better goalie between the two of them. I don't know about Ville Husso versus Talbot. I guess St. Louis chose right, when they were choosing Binnington or Husso, and they took a lot of heat for choosing Binnington, but Husso
Well,
just
wasn't
hasn't
Binnington
been
already
able to.
signed long term, like before like I think that Husso just went to free agency and they just couldn't afford to like have two expensive goalies. I think that's the history over in St. Louis. But either way, we'll see. Shams is saying in the chat here that Husso maybe just got sent down because of injuries, and maybe Detroit was confident no one's going to claim him, so they could just bring him up. Maybe. I guess we'll see how the goaltending fares. And I like your point, Brian. I feel like you could extend that almost to any goalie aside from obviously the very top tier guys and maybe even them. Like if your goalie is hot, probably it won't last too long because it's goalies. So if you can like trade a goalie while he's at his peak for a really awesome return of like high end skaters, then do it and then go delving again. But obviously the first step to doing that is to grab Cam Talbot. So I don't know if he gets the next start for Detroit, I'd be very tempted to ride him and then maybe start looking for trading partners as soon as you can. By the way, Jonathan Huberdeau, not the only one to get 4 points yesterday. Brian, there's another player and someone who in the past you haven't been too into, but you've always said he just needs power play. Well, he's getting it in spades. That's Teuvo Teravainen over on the Chicago Blackhawks. What a game in the 5-2 win over Edmonton. Teravainen fitting in very nicely with Connor Bedard. And Teuvo Teravainen had 2 goals and 2 assists in the win, bringing him now to 5 points in 3 games, along with 8 shots. Connor Bedard's obviously doing very well. He also has 5 points in the 3 games, but obviously you're not going to be able to grab Connor Bedard, but maybe in some leagues it's not too late to get Teravainen, though maybe after a 4-point game that window has closed. But is this, if like Teravainen is available to people in free agency, is this our first pause the pod moment of the episode? Like I just feel like I was really excited about Bertuzzi and Teravainen getting that exposure to Bedard. Now we've seen that Bertuzzi is not getting that exposure and obviously not doing that well. But if this sticks all season and Bedard's like a 90-point guy or more, like I think he is, I feel like you want Teravainen. It seems like that's his number one guy.
Yeah, like of all the Chicago players, I think, Bertuzzi, like you mentioned, is already moved down the depth chart. Taylor Hall hasn't done a whole lot, and he's not getting maximum Bedard exposure. Philip Kurashev, there's no one who's really doing, like, I'm wondering, Elon, if Bedard is still the only slam dunk, always rosterable Chicago player. Like that's the premise, and we're asking if Teravainen is somebody who we should add to that list. Along with I guess Seth Jones getting to QB that top power play. That could be a good spot for him. He's already got a goal there. But yeah, I think you pause the pod. You add Teuvo Teravainen. I'll repeat the stats: 4 points, 2 goals, and 2 assists, and 6 shots in his last game. He played less than 2 minutes on the power play, but that's because the power play kept scoring at 3 power play points in less than 2 minutes against Edmonton. I think we still need to look back to the first 2 games of the season before this one that were very pedestrian. I think with Teravainen, you're expecting some hot, some cold, but as like a mid-lower roster player, it's not a bad option at all that might be available in free agency, and maybe this performance could be a catalyst for him. So I'm gonna be optimistic on Teuvo Teravainen, top power play, top line with Connor Bedard in both situations. If they're clicking, that's a great place to be.
Yeah, and of course, Connor Bedard, I'm like really excited about him. My opponent this week in Couple had Bedard, and as if you recall, when we were talking about our drafts, and I know have Bedard, Brian, another great pick for you. I wanted him, and I got sniped right before it was my pick. The person right before me who ended up playing a week 1 had Bedard, so it was extra frustrating to see him go off. The guy who I took because I couldn't get Bedard was Barkov, who got injured. So it was an extra. Like it was like he gets Bedard, and I get basically nothing. It was very frustrating. But anyway, I digress. We'll talk about Barkov in a little bit. Let's talk about the Edmonton Oilers, who... Oh, wait. We'll talk about it in a little bit. And yeah, just to wrap a bow on this Chicago talk, like I said, Bertuzzi doing nothing. He's still on the top power play, but off the first line. I guess on the second line, but on Chicago's, like, does any line matter if it's not the Bedard line? Like, is it time to move on from Tyler Bertuzzi? Or do you hold on because he's on the top power play and he's a guy getting paid? He's probably going to get decent minutes.
Yeah, I mean, remember last year there were times where Tyler Bertuzzi wasn't rosterable, and there were times where he rewarded anyone who was patient or quick to jump on him. And I think I'm just going to sit in that space again. Like, if you can afford to wait, you can't in the Cupful, kkupfl.com. That's our listener league with over 700 managers in like 16 different countries. It's going amazing, by the way. Congrats to everybody on their first week. Even if you lost, congrats.
For what?
For participate, for being there, for showing up, and for continuing on and
That
winning
seems more
your
like, oh, yeah,
second
okay,
week.
yeah. The congrats is for your perseverance.
And making a great choice to participate in the world's best and most fun fantasy hockey league,
Okay.
kkupfl.com.
I got, I've been reading some comments of people who aren't in the league that are like, you talk too much about your league. I don't know
Okay.
if that's something, do we need to address that? Let's
I
address it
don't.
live on the air. No.
I mean, no.
Too bad.
I'm
No.
sorry. I don't think we'd like.
We try to
okay.
make everything relevant to all leagues, but
Yeah,
we're very
we took
excited about
45
this league.
seconds there, so apologies. We actually timed it so that you could push the skip button on your app and miss absolutely nothing. I did that intentionally for those people.
So you were saying that Bertuzzi is
Tyler-
not worth holding in Cupful?
I don't think so. Like I'm not gonna consider him like a must hold. And going back to how I started this piece, like I think Bedard and Seth Jones are the must haves. Right now Teravainen is a must have, and I think that's it for Chicago. And I could see Bedard being the only one who's consistently all the way through worth rostering in Chicago. And then I'll put Seth Jones as the second most likely, Teravainen is the third most likely, and Bertuzzi is the fourth most likely. But that's far enough down the list that I think you could probably let him go and then be quick to grab him if you feel like he'll help you.
Yeah, like especially if you're in a multi-category league, you might as well get like a Nick Foligno if you want someone on Chicago. At least, he has a goal, which Bertuzzi doesn't. He's taking more shots, and also Foligno hits a lot. So maybe you're getting more, and sometimes he's getting exposure to Bedard. But anyway, I think we're on the same page here. Too bad. I thought that Bertuzzi was going to be something. So speaking of that 5-2 win over Edmonton, what the heck? What the heck, guys? They're playing again tonight.
What the heck?
So we'll see if Edmonton can turn their fortunes around after two bad losses. They're playing Calgary at 8 at 7:42 right now. So maybe we'll get some Edmonton info as we go along recording this podcast. Stuart Skinner's going to get the start today. We'll see if he could bounce back after getting absolutely destroyed by Winnipeg. And obviously Calvin Pickard didn't do much better against Chicago. Also the forwards, of course, the Edmonton got shut out by Winnipeg, and then they only scored a couple goals yesterday. So Draisaitl and McDavid just letting everybody down. I drafted Draisaitl with my 6th overall pick, and I really hope I didn't blow it. He did score a power play goal late in the game yesterday, which was nice because I was getting really frustrated with the potential of coming into this episode with 2-0 games from Draisaitl. But yeah, I'm going to need a whole lot more than that, especially as I see some of the other players I was considering with that pick going off. But Brian, you're going to tell me now not to worry about Stuart Skinner, not to worry about like Draisaitl, right? It'll be all fine. Comfort me, please.
Well, the comfort is that the worse they play, the greater the reckoning will be. Like, that's how I'm looking at it. Like, let them get angry, and it's like, let's swing all the way in the wrong direction, and then it's going to come forcefully back. Like, I think everyone's going to be fine in Edmonton. I don't think the sky is falling. This is not a hot take. But hey, send your McDavid buy lows now, which is like probably a joke because I don't know anyone selling low on McDavid, but everyone's hearing Elon be like, "Oh, I wonder, did I do the wrong thing with Draisaitl?" Maybe if you picked like 5 to 7 spots later than that, this is a moment where you can trade up whoever you got in the first round, swap them for Draisaitl somehow, and you'll be happy the rest of the way. Is my prediction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. If someone were to throw me a Kaprizov for Draisaitl offer, like Cale Makar, maybe even Jack Hughes, like I would look. So I'm just saying, there's people who are in my division that are listening. I'm not saying guaranteed I'd accept it, but I'd consider it. It wouldn't be an instant decline, I'll tell you that. By the way, another person who's probably driving his managers crazy, Austin Matthews, like I mentioned at the top with my amazingly hilarious joke. Pointless in 3 games so far, though Matthews did take 8 shots versus Pittsburgh. So I'm going to assume, Brian, that you're even less concerned about him than you are about, say, a Draisaitl just because of all those shots.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Austin Matthews. The curious thing, or the interesting thing, so Matthews has 14 shots in 3 games, but that's actually in 2 games because there was a game in the middle, the second game of the season, where Matthews was held to no shots on goal against New Jersey. He played 21 minutes and 2.5 on the power play. 0 shots for Austin Matthews that game. He followed that up with 8 shots, so I think we're good. And I wonder if Sheldon Keefe had a plan to shut him down the first time he saw him. But that must have been a frustrating or worrisome moment for Matthews. If you can, if someone is having flashbacks, like maybe the last time they rostered Matthews was 2 seasons ago when he was playing through the injury, the hand injury or wrist or whatever it was, maybe they're not married to him. Like there's not going to be a whole lot of moments where Draisaitl and Matthews are available for someone you picked after them. So you might want to kick tires because I'm not concerned about either of them.
Okay, fair enough. By the way, Shams is sharing in the chat here. Back to the Oilers talk. They've changed up their top six. It was McDavid and RNH and Hyman on the first line for the first couple of games. Looks like Nugent Hopkins and Jeff Skinner have swapped. So now it's Nugent Hopkins with Draisaitl and Arvidsson. So we'll see if that unlocks anything. But yeah, back to Toronto. Obviously, another player that people are concerned about is Joseph Woll because he hasn't even played yet because he got injured before the season started. It's been 3 games, right? 2 of them have been played by Anthony Stolarz, who's looked really great in his 2 starts. I want he took the loss to Montreal, but obviously not his fault. It was a shutout, 1-0. What was it? 1-0 in the end? No, it was a shutout. Yeah, it was 1-0, wasn't it? Shutout. I should have prepped the. I should have had that in my notes. The shutout. Okay, I'm just gonna make sure because Brian's not giving me the.
Sorry,
the
I don't know.
confirmation.
It was. It was 1-0.
It was a shutout. 1-0. But yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna start this whole thing over again because now I lost my train of thought.
Key.
Obviously, another player that some people might be worried about if they drafted him is Joseph Woll because he hasn't even played yet because he got injured before the season started. Anthony Stolarz has gotten 2 of the 3 games for the Leafs, and he's looked pretty great. Like, he did take the loss against Montreal. It was a 1-0 game, not his fault. Got that win against Pittsburgh yesterday. I wonder if, I think a lot of people thought that it was going to be Woll as the starter. I think at this point, with the way Stolarz is playing, I think he's already pushing to, make the case that it should be, 50-50 at least when Woll comes back. I'm not saying he's taken Woll's job completely, but Stolarz is showing himself to be a very valuable goalie, and Joseph Woll is showing himself to be injury prone. So I think it would be a wild decision for Berube to just now all of a sudden give Woll a bunch of games in a row. So I don't know. I think floor right now for Stolarz is 50-50, which could be pretty good. If your league counts wins, Leafs are going to win a lot of games, especially with Stolarz, and next he's been so good.
Yeah, Stolarz has started very well, which is great for him and not great for Joseph Woll. And I think what Stolarz has done with his play is he's proven, no one's proven anything yet. All right, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I think he's showing that, hey, yeah, he might be up for a 50% share. I mean, Toronto went out and signed him, right? So there has to be some belief in him. And boy, won't Brad Treliving look great if Stolarz was a great find. And if he keeps playing well, not only does he show that he can be in a tandem situation with Woll, who seems to get injured a lot, and probably the less he's on the ice, the better. So maybe Toronto would rather not play Woll any more than every other game, even if he's good. But Stolarz also might just have the inside track for being a 1A in this situation. It's a really quick decline for Joseph Woll if Anthony Stolarz can keep this play up.
Yeah, obviously a little bit too early to tell. We need to actually see Woll get in the net. But yeah, great start for Stolarz for sure. And congrats to also Hillbitty, who had a decent game against New Jersey.
Hildeby.
Okay. What did I say?
Hillbitty.
Sorry, Hildeby. My mistake. One day he'll be a household name, and I'll never get it wrong. He's the future, right? Isn't he supposed to be the top goalie in the Leaf system? But hopefully for Leafs fans, not this year, right? You just want to have Woll and Stolarz and go win the cup already, or at least get past the first round. Also, you think the Leafs keep losing to Boston. You'd think maybe they'd be have learned about how they did so well with the 50-50s. That's another reason why maybe they would just go out and try to do the same thing. Brian, so one of the guys that I was considering taking over Draisaitl, like I said, was Kirill Kaprizov. Let's go to Minnesota next. Let's go to Minnesota next. They're currently playing. It's 1-1. I'm seeing against Winnipeg at the end of the second period. No points yet for Kaprizov. The Minnesota goal is Jake Middleton, assisted by Marco Rossi. Rossi's had a good start to the season. But yeah, specifically Kaprizov, I'll just mention 1 goal and 2 assists and 4 shots in the 5-4 loss to Seattle. So Kaprizov's up to 4 points in 2 games going into today's game. But believe it or not, going into today, again, for those first couple games, not the highest scorer on the team because Matt Boldy, 5 points. He had a goal and 2 assists versus Columbus, and then a goal and an assist and 6 shots versus Seattle. It's really looking like Matt Boldy is has the potential to have a coming out party this year, maybe even get up to that Kaprizov level. Tell me, this is again where you're gonna have to cool me down. But 2 games in, looks like these are 2 similar stars on this team. Do you think that's crazy to think that Boldy might cement himself as someone that you draft in the first round of a fantasy draft, just like Kaprizov?
Well, it's funny that we're
That's
here.
crazy.
I think first round, like a Kaprizov, is crazy. I think the first step is like, I don't know about Kaprizov level for Matt Boldy, but I think for him, like, it's interesting to see if he can like really decidedly surpass like Joel Eriksson Ek as being the undisputed second best Minnesota Wild player to have. I'm sure he's already passed Zuccarello at this point. And I feel, I don't know, Elon, if you have the same sense, but it feels like Boldy's value was kind of yo-yoing heading into the season. Like everyone was really excited. It was like, oh, maybe this won't be it. And I think some of that had to do with line combos in preseason. Some of it had to be with him being injured too. But Boldy played 23 and a half minutes versus Seattle. And sure, the game went to overtime, but still for a forward, even in overtime, 23 and a half minutes without like, crazy like 7 or 8 minutes on the power play or anything like that. That's crazy. Matt Boldy off to a great start. I'm very happy to have him in a couple leagues. And I think, Elon, maybe to answer your question, I think he was still kind of flying a little bit under the radar this season. And so the question is, like, to me is like, is he going to continue flying under the radar after this season? Early returns are not. Somebody else who I mentioned off the top that I want to just jump to quickly, Marco Rossi on the Wild. If you missed out on Boldy and Zuccarello and Kaprizov and the obvious guys, Marco Rossi might still be worthwhile for you. I saw he had an assist early in the game tonight. He had 2 assists and 4 shots against Seattle on Saturday. This is all with Kaprizov and Zuccarello on the ice. That's a nice start for Marco Rossi. And if you are somebody like holding Ryan Hartman or who wanted Ryan Hartman when he was centering the top line, then I think you want Marco Rossi because I think he might be better. And if this is the moment where Marco Rossi can actually show up and be consistently productive and an NHLer and hold this spot in the depth chart, I think he might be somebody who could become a full season hold.
Yeah. Nah. I don't think so. I guess that'll be
Okay.
my first disagreement with you. Trev can mark this down and we can check back. I'm looking at the lines today. Yeah, so Rossi is centering Kaprizov and Zuccarello. Of course, Joel Eriksson Ek is injured, which is a shame. What is the latest update, by the way, on Joel Eriksson Ek? Maybe Shams can let us know in the chat here, but I know he's out for at least a couple games. In the meantime, I'm seeing the top power play today has been Boldy, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Ryan Hartman, and Brock Faber. So Rossi couldn't crack that top power play over Hartman. Maybe it's because of whatever positions they play on the power play. So yeah, it's one of those classic, like, do you want the guy on the top line or do you want the guy on the top power play? I don't know. I'm still not like, I know Rossi had that one game where he had 4 shots, but generally he's a pretty low shooter. So I'll be surprised if he's a season long hold, especially in a league like a cupful, let alone like an even deeper league. Yeah, but I guess
that's fair.
we'll
I got a little excited. And I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I just didn't know how to end my sentence, and I went too big on the sentence end.
Oh, I wanted you to put a stake in it. And really,
yeah, I know, so that you could because it would be, I think, an easy win. But like I would, for as long as he's producing,
sure, worth a stream for sure.
Worth a stream, worth a watch, worth an ad, depending on your circumstances.
Yeah, you want the guy with Kaprizov for sure. And I think a lot of the concern, like you said, Brian, about Boldy was not playing with Kaprizov, but Boldy might just be a similar caliber superstar. That's the question I'm starting to ask myself. I'm not saying I've come to that conclusion yet, but as the weeks go by, let's see how Boldy does. If he could like put up all these points, kind of like a Malkin and Crosby or a Taves and Kane, don't play together except for on the power play and still are like stars in their own right. So yeah, I'll be curious to see if Minnesota finally has that with these two guys. And then, of course, Joel Eriksson Ek is fantastic whenever he gets back in centering either of those guys. Brian, let's take a quick break. I'm going to cut to some ads that I recorded yesterday for Matchup Maximizer. By the way, check out that episode where I looked at the schedule for next week. And yeah, we'll be back in just a sec. Here's Keeping Karlsson. Welcome back to the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast. It's our mega Sunday show where we're going through a bunch of teams in the league. Not every team. Okay, we're not going too crazy, but trying to find the most noteworthy things that have happened so far a week into the season. We were just talking about Matt Boldy, another player that's striking to me as someone who seems to be having a Boldy-esque breakout. And when I say a Boldy-esque breakout, it's like a guy who was already really good, but now seems to potentially be hitting an even like higher level, Cole Caulfield over on Montreal. He's scored in each of the 3 games so far, including 2 goals versus Ottawa yesterday. So that's 4 goals in 3 games for Cole Caulfield. Is this the kind of thing, Brian, where you're going to say, he has a high shooting percentage? Like, obviously anyone who has 4 goals. Dylan Gunther has 5 goals this season. I'm sure you'll also point to his shooting percentage. But at some point, we still got to be kind of interested in players who are scoring goals. And Cole Caulfield is supposed to be a goal scorer. He's doing the thing that he's supposed to be doing. And I'll counteract even before you answer. I'm already going to give a counterpoint, which is, maybe he's scoring on too many of his shots, but he has no assists. So maybe he should be getting fewer goals, but I don't think he's going to get 0 assists on the season playing with Slavkovsky and Suzuki, right? So anyways, let me know. Do you think that Caulfield is about to hit another level this season based on his start?
I don't know. I think we're all hoping that Cole Caulfield is going, like, and by another level, we mean he's been a 65-point player, about 25, 30 goals for the last couple seasons. Although he had 26 goals in 46 games in 22, 23. So if he kept playing, he would have definitely passed 30, maybe touched 40 goals. Last season, he shot just 9% compared to the 17% he'd shot before that, which was maybe a little high. But you know what? I'm not going to, like, this year, Cole Caulfield, you're like, is the shooting percentage unsustainable? Is that 4 goals on 10 shots? Yeah, Caulfield shooting 40%. But it's boring at this point to be like, he has everyone who's scored a goal has a high shooting percentage. So I'm not going to penalize Cole Caulfield for having 4 goals on 10 shots at all. I think this is really exciting to see him get off to a big start. Sometimes, like, confidence out of the gate is a big deal. And he has no assists, which just makes him the clubhouse leader in the Cy Young race with 4 goals and no assists. I'm not concerned about shooting percentage or anything. I'd love to see him filling the net. That's what we want to see from a scorer at this point. I'm not going to find anything to nitpick about the NHL's second highest scorer, unless his name is Paul Cotter, I guess. Maybe then I'll point to shooting percentage. But still, it would be unfair or hypocritical to be like, oh, this guy's shooting 40% or 60% or 20, even 25%. Like, goals are going to happen early. Someone's got to score them. Cole Caulfield is someone we expect to score them. So look, I'm just happy to see that he's on track for this, and maybe he can get to that 40 goal upside this season with such a great start that we saw 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, I definitely could see it happening. Caulfield looking really good. What a steal. 15th overall pick back in 2019 just because he was small. Look at him now, okay? By the way, on the Habs, another small player. We got to talk about Lane Hutson having a really nice start to his career. 2 straight 2-assist games. The first game, he didn't get a point. That's fair. Again, like I said, there was only 1 goal in the whole game. But Hudson's looked really good. 2 of those 4 assists, by the way, have come from the second power play. So the Habs, I guess they have another unit that can do well. It might just mainly be because of Lane Hutson there. I wonder if this is the plan for the whole season, that Lane Hutson is going to stick on the second power play, or I wonder if this is, a situation where he can earn a promotion at some point and get to power play 1, and then what kind of upside would we be looking at? But either way, I'm curious to know, Brian, like, there's been a few of these defensemen that people have been drafting late because of, like, potential upside, even though they've never really done anything before, like Brant Clark, of course, who got top power play on LA, Adam Boqvist, who's been getting top power play on Florida. At this point, if you wanted to compare the 3 of them, it's got to be the Hudson's the winner, right? Because he's actually doing something so far, even though he's not on the top power play.
Yeah, I'll take the guy who's doing something already, not to, like, over invest in that, but for Lane Hutson, it is nice to see him already scoring. And if he's producing on the second power play, like, your frame might be, does that mean he should be on the first power play? Or maybe it's just working on the second power play, right? Like, it's nice to have 2 competitive power play units. So the guys who are on the ice 35% of the time might actually succeed with Lane Hutson there, which I think it might be a bigger bonus than loading him up on the top power play. But I don't know, right? This is all just like a little bit of theorizing. So we'll see what actually happens. For me, it's a good sign that Lane Hudson's producing, but it's also a good sign he's seeing decent minutes and not being hidden away or sheltered. He's played 18 and a half minutes twice, which is, like, not insignificant for a rookie. And he played 23 minutes against Boston. So it's nice to see him getting a lot of time to play, a lot of opportunities. And we'll see if this translates into sustainable scoring. I'm not sure yet. Meanwhile, I just want to mention Mike Matheson, who got his first point of the season against Ottawa on Saturday. Up until that point, he had just one shot in 2 games, 6 blocks. But he's got to do more, even on the top power play, which saw less than a 60% share of the team's total time on ice with the man advantage. So Mike Matheson, time to step up. I hope he can get going, because we thought, like, if he's on top power play, he'll still be worth having. But at this moment, he hasn't really justified his value.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying about maybe it would make sense for them to just want to have two good power plays, but I think it would also make sense to just put all your best players on the top power play. You don't even need a second power play because you'll score a goal in the first shift of the power play. So at some point, I wonder if they're going to give that a shot. I mean, I think long term that's definitely the plan. It's just about whether it's going to be this year or not. Shams, by the way, let us know that Joel Eriksson could be back as early as Tuesday. So we'll see some brand new Minnesota lines, and I guess they can talk about it on short shifts coming up next week, which is going to be really fun. By the way, Lewis is going to be joined by Elizabeth, is the plan. We're planning on, here's the plan for short shifts. By the way, a little quick digression before we get back to this content. So if you're a new listener, Brian and I do the mega shows on Sundays. Then during the week, we have 2 shorter episodes, much shorter episodes that get recorded Tuesday night and Thursday night. Just a little bite-sized taste of what's going on in the league, just so that you're not, out of the loop by the time we get to our mega show. And last season, we had a few people cycling through. This year, the plan is it's going to be every Thursday, Shams and Jeremy. Obviously, like weekly, there could be changes. And then Lewis is, for the foreseeable future, going to be joined by someone different every Tuesday. We put a call out to some of our patrons asking, well, to all of the patrons, right? Asking like who's interested in coming on shows. We got a bunch of volunteers, so we're going to try a bunch of people. And, I think it'll be fun to hear from our talented patrons. And yeah, Elizabeth is going to be joining Lewis to start on Tuesday. All that to be said, they can talk about the Minnesota lines if that's something interesting. Back to the Habs, Brian. We were talking about Lane Hutson. Another defenseman that's really catching my eye is Caden Gooley. He's looking like a great depth D to roster in a multi-category league. He has 3 assists now in 3 games, 14 blocks. I'm talking about Caden Gooley here. And I saw a fun stat. Gooley's been on the ice for every even strength goal for the Habs this season. So yeah, he's not getting power play, but maybe he'll be able to, I don't think he's going to get a point per game, obviously, but maybe we've got like a 30, 40 point defenseman who can also contribute a ton of peripherals with the blocks. Trev asked actually in our Discord, would you rather one of a Hudson, Boqvist, Clark, or a peripherals D with some offense like Caden Gooley? I actually added Caden Gooley in Cupful at the start of the week. I'm definitely not planning on dropping him. If Brant Clark was dropped, I don't think I would make that swap. I kind of like the safe floor and still some offense every once in a while versus like a wild card that could easily just get you 0 points a lot of days.
Yeah, Gooley has value that way. I'll take him for now. I could see these third pairing top power play guys like Brant Clark or whoever busting out in Adam Boqvist, like you mentioned, Lane Hutson. But right now, Gooley is like the safe floor guy. He's seeing 22 minutes a night. He's putting up peripherals and he's contributing on the score sheet. So for now, I'm happy with that rather than trying to I guess you can make your choice, right? If you're happy with someone like Caden Gooley, or if you want to go out and chase the next best thing, it might depend on your format, how competitive your league is, the rest of your roster composition. I think both are reasonable strategies, but if Gooley is out there and you're going to get some credit for his peripherals, it seems, based on how he played last year and so far this year, that Caden Gooley can fill categories in a pretty sustainable way.
Yeah, and then maybe even some points every once in a while. By the way, one other player, Brian, here's a chance for you to do a little bit of a victory lap. You talked all summer about how you're really into Sam Montembeault, and boy, has Montembeault had quite the start to the season, right? He shut out the Leafs on national television with everyone watching, and he looked really good doing it. And then he also played against your Ottawa Senators on Saturday, beat them as well. I remember kind of thinking that maybe Montreal will still... I don't know. I didn't really think this. I don't know what I was thinking because, I agreed that Montembeault's good, but I just didn't expect him to be like a big volume guy. But at this point, especially if Montreal's looking good to start, I think they're going to try to see if they could take a run at the playoffs. Obviously, it's a long shot, but it seems pretty clear at this point that Montembeault getting more games than Primo will be one key to them getting there. So yeah, I think if he's still in free agency, is Montembeault someone that you would prefer over who have we talked about so far? Talbot and Wolf. Did you give a ranking on Talbot versus Wolf? Maybe remind me what you decided there, and then okay. So let's start a goalie ranking here of interesting goalies, and maybe you could place Montembeault as well.
between Montembeau ahead of Talbot and Wolf for sure.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
great. Like I can't believe
Okay.
I
Forget
can't.
Talbot and Wolf. Okay. We can focus on Montembeau then. He's
Okay.
ahead. You're saying.
Well, with Montembeau, like I just can't believe that I actually have no Montembeau stocks anywhere, which is crazy because I was very high on him going into the season, and I think I was counting on others being as low as some podcast co-hosts were on no, honestly though, like I guess I didn't have a good feel for how everybody else felt about Montembeau because I kept just missing him, or I already had my goalies kind of set. So it may be a little bit of both, but hey, great early returns from Montembeau. He's playing as well as he's playing incredibly well, which he did for long stretches last year. And so I think maybe this is like if you have Caden Primo and you were expecting a 40 or 50% timeshare. I don't see that happening, and it's not even the same as Cam Talbot. I think where it's like, well, Cam Talbot will do well up to a point. I could see Montembeau doing well most of the season, and the door never really opening to Primo for having like a really great stretch of starts.
Yeah. No. At this point, how can you argue? I think Montembeau is very exciting. I think Talbot is like a little more exciting to me than he is to you, but yeah, I definitely agree that I would have Montembeau ahead. Though here's some competition for you because speaking of hot goalies, yeah, Talbot got a shutout to start the season. Montembeau got a shutout to start the season. They're not the only guys. Yesterday, Lucas Dostal joined the party. His first game of the year, boom, 30 save shutout. Yeah, it was against the San Jose Sharks, and yeah, Celebrini didn't play. But hey, Dostal could only stop the shots that he takes. Or Dostal can only stop the shots that are taken against him, and he did just that. He's a guy who I was also really excited about going into the year, and then especially with Gibson being out to start, I was thinking it'll be really cool to see what Dostal can do with a bunch of games in a row. I don't even know if Anaheim has announced. Let me go check out if we've got a retweet yet of who's going to play for Anaheim tonight because it's a back-to-back. But like, why not just play Dostal again? Like, what, are you going to play James Reimer? Get out of here. Just play Dostal, I think, against Vegas. I'd be very curious to see how he would do against a high-powered Vegas team. But yeah, where does Dostal rank to you versus Montembeau if both of them happen to still be in free agency? I'm sure that both of them are in free agency for people in shallower leagues.
Yeah, I think Dostal is more likely to be in free agency than Montembeau, just based on the leagues I'm in and have seen. They're both worth rostering. Like Dostal might, I think he's sort of somewhere, but well, I don't know if he's okay. I was gonna say he's somewhere between Stolarz and Montembeau, but I think he's closer to Montembeau. The Stolarz comparison was basically saying Dostal has some free time to prove himself while John Gibson's out, and the difference is John Gibson has not proven a whole lot himself lately. So really, Dostal just has to be decent to assure himself at least 50-60% share of the starts, you would think. And so far, he's doing that. I don't know. Like the trouble is if you're in like a wins league or goals against average, I'm not sure how good Anaheim is this year yet and how well they'll play in front of Dostal, which is going to impact his value depending on your format. But if you're looking at save percentage and for an occasional win, I don't think he should be a free agent. He, in a league with fewer and fewer sure shot starters every year, he's one of them who might actually be available for you.
Yeah, so I guess this is the whole idea behind maybe not investing big on goalies in your draft, because now we're talking on the show about already a bunch of guys that you could have gotten later, maybe even still can get, that could end up having some value to you, and there will still be more as we keep going. I know one guy I have in my mind. I guess I'll say I don't need to do. I think Ersson is also someone that could be interesting and available to some people. We'll talk about him in a little bit. But yeah, Dostal, really nice start to the year. We'll see, one game. So let's see how he does against non-San Jose Sharks teams. On the flip side for goalies are doing badly. Yeah, we talked about Stuart Skinner, who maybe had the worst start of the year, or maybe it's an open competition between him and Alexander Georgiev and his counterpart Justus Annunen and his counterpart Justus Annunen, who have been disastrous so far for Colorado in 2 losses to Vegas and Columbus. In both of those games, Georgiev has started, gotten pulled. Annunen came in, was terrible himself, and the Avs lost. Winnipeg ended up waiving Kakkonen because I guess they decided to go with Eric Comrie as their backup. Brian, I did an ad break already. I did an ad break at 7:50, and the next one's going to be at 8:30.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't mean to distract you. I thought I could send that without
Oh,
you.
it popped up.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. Remember I said that whole thing about how like I recorded it at the same time as Matchup Maximizer and I went in to do a whole blah blah
Yeah.
blah
Then
about
you
that
talked
game.
about, yeah.
Okay. Where was I? Oh yeah. Okay. Um Colorado claimed Capo Kakkonen off of waivers from Winnipeg. I guess Winnipeg decided to go with Eric Comrie as their backup, so good for them. And Kakkonen is a goalie who I have like no faith in. But at this point, if Georgiev and Anyunin can't do anything, then maybe Kakkonen gets a shot. Looks like Georgiev has been confirmed to get the start tomorrow for Colorado. That game is against the New York Islanders, so we'll see if Georgiev can get on track a little bit. How long of a leash, Brian, would you be giving to Georgiev if you drafted him for your fantasy team? Like, let's say tomorrow against the Islanders, he another dud, blows you up again. Would it be like drop time already, or do you have to give leash to someone who you probably drafted like mid draft at worst?
I don't my faith is shaken. It was already shaken in Georgiev. I saw him sitting in a couple leagues during drafts, and I had to remind myself, no, like don't go there. We're not going to do that. And I knew I might be making a mistake because really this we could have had. We're 2 games in, right? We could be for Georgiev at least. We're 4 games in for the or no, but he and Union have both had two appearances because of the pulling. Look, it's been a bad start at a moment that Georgiev needed to reassure anyone that he was a legit number one starting goalie. He's failed to do that. 5-on-5, a 682 save percentage so far this season. He's given up 7 goals on 22 shots on 2 expected goals. All right, that's not great. And Yunin, for what it's worth, not much better. He's been an 800 goalie at 5-on-5. Has given up 3 goals on 15 shots with just one expected goal. So they've both been awful. Why not try Capo Kakkonen, who I really don't expect to be a whole lot better? I think it's going to be a season of these guys just getting like randomly hot and making it seem like it's going to last forever, and then it won't, and they'll switch to the other guy. I think it might be a long year in the Colorado crease if these are the only options available to them.
Yeah, and I feel like to be fair to Union, like he hasn't started. Like I assume that the mindset for a goal, you're starting, you have a routine, you kind of get ready. So I don't want to like totally just disregard a Noonan because he's been bad in these 2 appearances that he wasn't expecting to have. So I feel like it makes sense why Colorado's now going back to Georgiev since he's been pulled 2 straight games. You got to try to build up some confidence. But I am interested to see how Noonan could do once he actually gets a proper start. But yeah, before long, maybe we'll see Kakkonen as well. That's a shame. By the way, back to the Edmonton talk. They've already scored a goal today against Calgary. So I guess these new lines are looking a little bit better. McDavid passed it to Jeff Skinner, who scored the first goal of the game. So, well, I assume I'm seeing Matthias Ekholm and McDavid have the assist on the Skinner goal. I guess I don't know who passed to who, but yeah. So maybe that'll be something that'll make Jeff Skinner more valuable. So if he's someone that people gave up on after a couple games of nothing, playing with McDavid, always a good thing, as people know. But let's go back to Colorado. Yeah, the goaltending has been bad. They still have been scoring some goals. And to be fair, also to Colorado, they have so many injuries. Like we've already talked about all the players who are out to start the season. Now add Jonathan Drouin to the list, who I guess the report is he's going to miss at least a few games. We don't know exactly like how long he's going to be out. Really, this is like decimated this team that at one point we thought of as like a somewhat deep team. Their lines yesterday versus the lines yesterday. Who did they play yesterday? Oh, I already forgot.
Sorry, I'm not on top of that enough.
Who did Colorado play yesterday? Let me just get this information. Sorry,
Columbus.
Oh yeah,
it was Columbus.
Lines yesterday.
Yeah.
Versus Columbus, where McKinnon, Rantanen, and Kovalenko. That's fun for him, getting on the top line. And then the second line, Casey Middlestat with Callum Ritchie. Casey Middlestat with Callum Ritchie and Ross Colton. And on the top power play, Ross Colton, Casey Middlestat, they're there with the big 3 guys. And both of them have been good so far. 2 points in 2 games each for Ross Colton and Casey Middlestat. I mentioned on Matchup Maximizer yesterday that Colorado has one of the best schedules of the week. They play Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, all off-day games. If you can get a Middlestat or a Ross Colton, like assuming Drouin's going to be out for those games, or at least like the first 3 of them, you probably want to jump on a top power play guy in Colorado, right? Especially if they're doing something.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you don't want to ever look past anyone who's playing with Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen, and it doesn't seem like anyone else is going. Like Jonathan Drouin's out for a little bit. There's no sign of Gabriel Landeskog yet, and also we've got at least a month or more to wait for Val Nichushkin. So in the meantime, yeah, just go for the guys playing with McKinnon and Rantanen. None of them are very exciting, but they might hit. So that's basically what it comes down to. Someone in our Discord server, apologies, I don't remember who it was, but it was like, "Wow, Colorado's really thin on paper," which is what it was, which was a good way of saying what I think I've been trying to say for the last couple of weeks. Yeah, it's gonna be a really interesting season in Colorado, and I should also just on the goalie thing, I will just add that the fact that they keep throwing Georgiev in net tells me that they want Georgiev to be the starter. That he's like they're trying to make that work, which is still a bit of an opportunity for him, I'd say. So if you have him rostered, sure, like that can be a little encouraging. But I don't know, Elon. Like if you had Georgiev, would you be holding? And sorry to turn this back to turn it back to the crease, but would you be like how much longer would you give him?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna give him the Monday game against the Islanders. If he gets blown up again, and then a Noonan gets the next start on Wednesday, and I'll say a Noonan has a good game on Wednesday, I don't know. And then let's say Friday a Union gets a second start in a row. Now I'm like really projecting ahead. But I think that would be the point where I'd be like, I'm done with this. Though again, like Colorado will be a lot less shallow once they get some guys back. Once Drouin, Lehkonen, Nichushkin, maybe Landeskog. Like once these guys are all back, this is a good team again. That's going to help the goaltending. But for now, but also Brian, I'm into. Okay, I'd say Casey Middlestat. He's got the top power play for a while. I think for next week, Ross Colton is interesting. So I like them, and they've done well so far. So just to add a little bit more ketchup,
Yeah,
mustard. What's the thing? A
I'll
little bit more oomph
relish.
to your statement. Relish to those guys. One of those condiments.
I'll add some relish to Middlestat too. Like he's someone who I think I like. I think Kovalenko and Richie and Colton are all like maybe random if they have a great game, and I think Middlestat has a better chance than that.
Okay. Let's dive into one of those teams that feasted on the Avs goaltending. So it's been Vegas and Columbus. Let's start in Vegas. We were a little bit concerned. A lot of people were concerned over the summer that like there's not that much winger depth here. They're like, who's Jack Eichel going to be playing with? I think I scoffed, being like, what is he playing with, like Victor Olofsson or Ivan Barbashev? Now look at this. 2 games in, and I guess, and Vegas is playing today, but as of now, 2 games in, Eichel's doing just fine with whoever they give him to play with, 6 points in 2 games. And he's been playing, by the way, with Mark Stone, which is obviously very helpful. Stone doing great, 5 points. Ivan Barbashev, the third on that line, 6 points. Just Vegas is doing very well. Maybe it's the goaltending they've played against, but hey, points are points, and that top line is looking great. Victor Olofsson's been on the top power play. He had 2 goals versus Colorado, even though he doesn't have the best even strength line. I guess I've got the age-old question for you. Aside from, did I blow it by not drafting Jack Eichel instead of like Jake Gensel in the second round of my couple draft because he's looking incredible. But it's only been 1 game for Gensel. But I'm not going to ask you that. What I'm going to ask you is of the guys that might be available for people to add to their leagues, you could get Barbashev, let's say, who is on the top line, has 6 points in 2 games, or you can add Victor Olofsson, who is not on the best even strength line, but he is on top power play, which Barbashev is not. The top power play has been, of course, Eichel, Stone, Olofsson, Tomas Hurdle, and then Shea Theodore, who we'll get to in a sec, because that's a bit of a surprise to some people. But yeah, Barbashev versus Olofsson. If they're both out there, do you go with the guy on the top power play, or do you go with the guy on the top line?
The eternal question. Barbashev 3 goals on 5 shots, top line, second power play. Olofsson 2 goals on 5 shots, top power play, third line. I'm gonna go Olofsson for power play 1. I don't see either being guys you can't drop though if you need to. But assuming you're looking to add and not drop, like I would hold them both for now. And if they're both out there, yeah, I don't. It's hard. I mean, obviously it's hard, right? Because you get Barbashev has more time on the ice with top end players being on the top line, but Olofsson has better opportunities technically. Yeah, so I don't know where I'm gonna go Olofsson. I don't think you can go wrong. It's nearly a coin flip. Elon, what would you do?
Yeah, I would go Barbashev actually pretty quickly. So, but obviously, like you say, it's hard to predict. I think Olafsson also is just like in shakier ground because at the end of the day, he's Victor Olafsson and he's had lots of opportunities that he's squandered in his career. Obviously, now it's a new situation on a new team, but I think Barbashev's had success with Eichel before, and so I'm happy to see him having it so far. Obviously, he's not going to keep it up to this extent, but he also I like the peripherals. So I think I would go Barbashev. But yeah, very interesting in Vegas that they're winning a couple games. Depth be damned. They're showing Colorado how to do it, though. Of course, one big difference is the goaltending. Aiden Hill hasn't been incredible, but he's been better in his two games. We'll see how Ilya Samsonov does today for Vegas against the Anaheim Ducks. That should be a fun game for sure. And then, yeah, let's switch to the defense. Shea Theodore, Brian, he's been on the top power play when people thought it was going to be Noah Hannafin based on, I think, like the lines they were even rolling in preseason for a lot of it. But I guess at the end of the day, they decided, let's start with Theodore, and he's been so good. He had 3 assists. He's been so good. He had 3 assists versus Colorado, 2 of them on the power play. Then he had 1 goal and 1 assist in the win over St. Louis. Not even on the power play, because Theodore's also really good at even strength. That's actually generally been his thing, where he's still valuable even when not on the top power play, just because he's so good at even strength. I think this could end up being one of my best cupful picks. I got Shea Theodore so late. He's been so incredible, making up for the lack of points from a Draisaitl. Last year, Shea Theodore paced for 73 points. Of course, he basically only played half a season. He only played 47 games. But assuming he stays healthy, do you think that's in reach this year if he's sticking on this top power play? And I don't know, maybe if not.
Well, that's the big question, right? Like the reason you got Theodore when you did was because people were assuming that he, including I think you, that he wasn't going to get on the top power play. So
what do you mean me? Like a lot of people, like that was the word from the beat writers.
I don't mean to sing. Okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have put it on you. But we were okay. The royal we. Okay, we didn't have assurances. You're right. At one point, some guy tweeted, "Hannafin is locked in on the top unit." Which was wild because
I think it was a quote from the coach also.
Yeah, I think so. Like we haven't seen him there since. Like that was the death knell for Noah Hannafin on the top power play. But Theodore's making the most of his opportunities so far. So good on the top unit. 2 power play points for Theodore. What's interesting to me is he started with less than 20 minutes of ice time in the first game. That didn't happen much last year, but then Theodore got 21 and a half minutes the next game. So I'm less concerned after seeing that than I was like, oh, why is he seeing like second or third pairing, like decisively second or third pairing minutes? So Theodore is seeing enough ice time on the top power play. Let the good times roll. I suppose, like if you really wanted to be careful, you wouldn't forget that the Hannafin is still a threat from the second unit to take Theodore's spot, and you might see what you can get back. But like, I'm not racing to sell high on Theodore quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, because also all these goals that Vegas is scoring is probably not going to keep up. So I'd be, hey, tier 3 young B, you can throw me an offer. I already said I'll be listening to offers on Draisaitl. I'm generally more of like I do the flip of most people. Like most people want to try to go for the buy low, sell high. I'm more of like a sell low, buy high kind of guy. So it's going to be hard to pry Theodore for me because I might just want to enjoy the fun. But I guess everyone has a price, as the $1 Million Man once said. So the other team that scored a lot of goals against Colorado was the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's been a bit of a surprise to start the year. They had a 6-4 win over the Avs, and this is a team that I was very worried about going into the year because of a lack of depth, but so far so good. Their top line has been Sean Monahan, Kirill Marchenko, and Yegor Shinnikov. Shinnikov now has 4 points in 2 games and 7 shots. Monahan and Marchenko each with 3 points. Also, just to make things a little bit more confusing, the top power play has had like a mix and match of those guys. The top power play in the last game was Monahan and Chinnikov were there, but then Kent Johnson and Cole Sillinger and Zach Werenski. And so Kent Johnson playing on, you can call it the second line, you can call it the third line. The line that Kent Johnson was on versus Colorado actually had the most even strength minutes, playing with Cole Sillinger and a guy named Mikhail Pitia. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's a name we're ever going to have to learn how to pronounce or not. I guess up to him. But yeah, Kent Johnson being on a line that got a lot of minutes at even strength and getting top power play has been pretty good. He's got 2 goals and an assist and 6 shots in the 2 games himself. So Brian, I guess I got to ask you for a classic, frustrating for you, keeping Karlsson ranking question, because I honestly don't know. Like, how to rank these guys. Who's the best? If they're all available in free agency, who do I even want? If like Monahan, Marchenko, Chinnikov, Kent Johnson. I think the one thing that I think is the most interesting is that the guy that I'm kind of least interested at this point, just on the production and also on the lines, is Adam Fantilli, who probably would have been the guy you draft first of all of these people. Fantilli did score a goal yesterday, but he only has 3 shots overall in 2 games. He's playing on a line with LeBanc and JVR, which isn't too exciting for me. And also he's on the second power play. So Fantilli, obviously things can change. Obviously he's a super high upside guy, but I think right now, and correct me if you disagree, but I think I'd want Monahan, Marchenko, Chinnikov, or Kent Johnson over Fantilli for the short term. And I'm curious to know if you agree and like how you would rank those guys.
I'm trying not to get too swayed by what we've seen in a couple of games. And it's funny, who were we talking about earlier? It's like where it was like this was against Colorado goaltending, so let's not get crazy. I feel like there's enough like I don't know, Elon, that I don't know if it sounds like a cop out.
You're being like none of the above, like you don't think it's gonna last, basically.
I think I would just keep my rankings the same as they were going into the season. You know me, I'm pretty stubborn that way. So like I'll still go Fantilli and Marchenko and Kent Johnson and then Chinnikov and Monahan. What I love to see though is that
it's interesting. The 2 guys that are top line, top power play are the ones you have at the bottom of your list.
I just don't know how persistent it's going to be and how persistently successful they're going to be, even on, like the top power play, like the second. I don't know, Elon. Like if you see the way minutes were distributed, it's because like things were shifted around a bit, and I'm not really sure there was a top power play last game. Like you had the other unit was so they had Monahan, Chinnikov, Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger. The other unit had Fantilli and Marchenko, which to me signifies that might be the actual top unit.
I see what you're saying, though. The way I think of it, the way I think about it, though, is like the one with Werenski is the top power play because he's the best player on the team, and he was with that Monahan group.
Yeah, well, maybe they're just balancing both units. Like I don't know what they're doing yet exactly, which is another reason why I'm not. But it would be hard to say they're balancing when Werenski himself has like a 75% share of all the power play minutes so far. It just didn't really spread that way in the Colorado game. So that's why I think I'm being a little stubborn here with Columbus, but I'd love to see 4 players with 3 or more shots a game so far, just through 2 games. But still, that's great. That's a lot of players with a lot of shots. Okay. Zach Werenski, 10 shots himself. He had 7 shots in the opener. He came in firing. Let's watch a week. I'll keep an open mind on Columbus, but I'm not sure I'm at the point where I'm like, I got to drop Fantilli for Monahan.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We'll have to wait and see. I think Monahan is impressing me. I think he is like coming, especially now with Boone Jenner out. Like he's like, I'm the top line center. I'm gonna act this way. It's not Fantilli's turn yet. So I think I would probably have Monahan first of the group. But like you say, we need some more data for sure, and we'll get some more next week, and we can always reassess. But yeah, man, Zach Werenski is like so good. And he's the kind of guy that I would love to one day see on another team or like a good team. Like imagine, just for fun, like what if Werenski was on Colorado instead of Cale Makar? Like would we be talking about like a 90-point Zach Werenski? Like I don't want to just be like, oh, Zach Werenski's just as good as Cale Makar. It's only because he's on Colorado. But like Werenski just seems so good. I'm curious to see how he would do with like superstars with him on the ice.
Yeah, I would also love to see that. Like, I think even in like mid or average circumstances, Werenski has a shot at 65 points with a lot of shots on the way there. So I don't think it's outlandish to consider him if he was on like a fully loaded team with a fully loaded top power play. That Werenski could be above 70 at least. It would be fun. It'd be interesting.
Okay, I'm gonna do an ad break here. I'm gonna play a sound effect. When I do it. Let's go. Okay, now the ad break's over. Okay. Where were we? Oh, yeah, so. All right, so moving on from Columbus, another team scoring a lot of goals, maybe more than expected, is the Utah Hockey Club. 16 goals in 3 games now for Utah versus Chicago, the Islanders, and the Rangers. They've won all 3 of those games. The top line of Keller, Schmaltz, and Hayton has been fantastic. Clayton Keller leading the way, 3 goals, 3 assists in 3 games. Schmaltz, he's got 4 apples. And then Barrett Hayton, 3 goals and 2 assists, 5 points in 2 games. Hayton also on the top power play. He's still not rostered in too many leagues, probably all the cupful leagues at this point. But if you're in another league, you might still be able to get Barrett Hayton. Is this pause the pod? I said pause the pod already for Teuvo Teravainen. I'm going to do it again. Try to fit both. I think you got to go get Barrett Hayton, right? He's doing so well.
Oh, wow. It sounded like you were going to keep going.
Okay, I'll keep going. He's doing so well.
You don't have to.
Okay, you go.
Yeah. Yeah, pause the pod, get Barrett Hayton. I got him in my cupful league. I bid 1 fab more. I think I bid 18. Mika bid 17. So I don't know how we nailed that bid. I guess Mika and I saw him similarly and guessed each other's strategies similarly. Anyway, that $1 of extra fab that I bid won me my week, and I was actually going to bench Hayton, right? Like, this is where he was at the beginning of Saturday. I had a full lineup. Then John Tavares got sick, and I got to put Hayton in my lineup, and I don't know how I can bench Barrett Hayton now. He seems locked in right now, and, I think one of the concerns would have been if Nick Schmaltz was playing center, where like that makes Barrett Hayton at best a middle 6 centerman, like a 2 or 3C. But Nick Schmaltz is playing the wing because Barrett Hayton's playing in the middle, and I'm not really sure that Hayton has a challenger for the top line center. Like, I know Logan Cooley is clicking just great on the second line too, but that's it. Logan Cooley's clicking just great on the second line, so why mess with something that's working so far? It's been fun to see Barrett Hayton go off early, especially after such a disappointing season last year.
Yeah, I think that this is a guy that could end up being a season-long hold. Last year, he started in the same spot, and Barrett Hayton just couldn't get a point. I think a lot of it did have to do with luck. Like, he had a lot of shots that just weren't going in, a lot of goals being scored while he was on the ice that he wasn't getting a point on. But this year, everything's going well so far. I had here in my notes that I was going to ask you Hayton versus Teravainen. Am I getting too, like, ticky-tacky here? If they're both available in free agency, does one jump out at you? Do you want the guy with the Utah guys on the top line, or do you want the guy playing with Connor Bedard? I feel like I kind of would go Teravainen, but I don't know. But I feel like, Teravainen's position may be more nebulous. Like, maybe Hayton's, but that's silly to say because Hayton could easily get bumped. I don't know. I can't decide. Yeah, I like them both.
Your thoughts are exactly the same as mine. Like, I was like, yeah, Teravainen could lose, but so could Hayton. That's why I sort of ended up making the case that I think Hayton has a good shot at sticking on the top line. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to choose between them. I think you can follow your gut, look at like what your positional needs are, look at the schedule, and go that way between them both. I'd say they're both equally desirable. I think if I had to predict one would be a season-long hold and not the other, I'd predict that Barrett Hayton will be the season-long hold and not Teravainen.
I wonder if we both feel that way because we both have Hayton on our couple rosters and we don't have Teravainen, and if it was flipped, we would have different opinions. But
I thought you might
are part of it.
I thought you might take the other side of that, actually, and then Trev would have something for accountability.
It's like I really think it's a coin flip. So it's like I could say something just for fun, but I really just don't have a strong opinion. I like them both, and it's wild. I think we might be breaking a rule here because we've been talking about Utah now for 5 minutes, and we haven't even talked about Dylan freaking Guenther, who's having. Oh wait, we haven't even talked about Dylan freaking Guenther, who's had an incredible start to the year. 5 goals now in 2 games. 2 of those 5 goals on the power play. He's on the top power play, right? It's Keller, Schmaltz, Hayton, Guenther, and Sergachev. So 11 shots only for Guenther. I think I mentioned that earlier in the show. So yeah, almost 50% shooting percentage. So yeah, he's not going to score 5 goals on every 11 shots, but still 11 shots in not 2 games, 3 games, whatever. He's doing really, really well. By the way, 11 shots on goal is Utah's leading shot taker. Second place, Barrett Hayton with 10 shots on goal. So
it's kind of funny. Like, I know you were framing it from like a shooting percentage perspective, but you said Dylan Guenther like only 11 shots and 3. Like, that's, I actually feel like I want to say the same thing about Guenther that we were saying about Cole Caulfield, which is that like I'm not gonna nitpick. 5 goals on 11 shots, 2 of them coming on the power play for Guenther so far. I'm not going to say, it's not going to keep up. What we're happy to see is that a scorer is scoring and a scorer is shooting, right? He's taking almost 4 shots a night, And, like I did wonder for a minute if Gunther is a sell high candidate, but near 4 shots a game, I'm happy to just hold on to that because usually, like in almost every case, that ends pretty well. Even if it's not 5 goals every 11 shots, you're still going to see like at least a goal every 10 shots, and those 10 shots come before 3 games are up.
Yeah, and also Gunther's playing with another super awesome center. Yeah, he's on the top line. He's on the second line with Logan Cooley, who's having a great season himself. 5 assists to match up with Gunther's 5 goals. So yeah, it's a very exciting situation over in Utah. They're getting a treat here. Brand new team for a city, and they got a team scoring all these goals. That'll be fun, right? And it'll be fun to see how many goals Gunther can end up with. I wonder him versus Cole Caulfield will be a fun race to follow throughout the season. I guess also I do need to eat a little crow. I don't know, I was hanging on to Vejmelka thinking he could potentially challenge and be like, if not 50-50, like close to it. But obviously, like Utah loves Connor Ingram. He's played the first 3 games. They've won all 3 games. To be fair, he let in 5 goals against the Rangers in that last game yesterday. So maybe Vejmelka goes next and we'll see what he can do. But yeah, I think that was a smart pick for anyone who drafted Connor Ingram, expecting him to be the starter. They've got 3 wins out of it for the first week of their fantasy season. So kudos to you. And I don't know, I'll still hold out some hope for Vejmelka to do something when he plays, but maybe those starts will be few and far between at this point.
Yeah, what can I say? This is what I thought would happen. Yeah. I'm happy to see it happen.
Goalie situation that isn't going the way we expected as much as Buffalo. Devin Levi got a start on Saturday and got the win versus Florida. I really expected that to be a UPL start. That kind of indicates to me that the Sabres have played 4 games. They've obviously they were going to alternate their first 2 games because that was the Prague series, 2 games in 2 days. They went UPL, then Levi, then UPL got the next game. But yeah, then they went right back to Levi. He had a good game. Levi's now up to a .919 save percentage in the 2 games he's played. I wonder if we've got ourselves like a tandem situation that just we don't know about yet. Like, the plan going into last year was for Levi to be the starter, right? And he like wasn't up to the job. But if he's coming in this year and he is up to the job of maybe not being a starter, but being a 50-50 guy, like why wouldn't Buffalo just be happy to play both of their goalies 50-50? Like I was really confident that UPL was going to be the volume starter for Buffalo. Now I'm feeling kind of like, why did they play Levi on that Saturday if not with them having some confidence that he's good to go every couple games? And Levi like rewarded them by playing really well against the defending Stanley Cup champs. To be fair, Barkov and Tkachuk weren't playing in that game, but still, I think I'd be very nervous as a UPL manager. I think this might be a secret tandem that we're going to realize in the next couple of weeks, but I guess time will tell.
Did you call it a secret tandem?
Yeah, it's like I think
that.
like maybe like the Buffalo coaches, they know it's a tandem, but the rest of us don't know it yet.
Yeah, and well, you're cluing in. They can't fool you, Elon. That Devin Levi and Ukko Pekka Luukkonen might be a tandem. I mean, the question is like, is why did they start Levi on the Saturday, which like it's only a question because why did they pay UPL? Why did they give him a starter's contract if they're already sort of tandeming so early?
Maybe because they have the cap space and they wanted to have 2 good goalies, you know? Like it might just be as simple as that. Like, that's how you get that's how you get UPL to stay. It's hard to get people to stay in Buffalo, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So maybe that's Buffalo paid the Buffalo tax to keep UPL in the mix to be like in a tandem with Levi, and Levi so far outplaying Luukkonen. So so this is one after I just said, well, with Ingram, that's what I said I thought would happen. So, but Levi, no, I didn't see that. I didn't see him outplaying Luukkonen so far, and Levi's been winning games or keeping Buffalo in games while Luukkonen has been at fault during his starts. He was outdueled by Markstrom in the first game of the season in Czechia. I think it would be like, so I don't know, Elon, like at first I was, before you just said this, I'm like, I wonder if it would be a hard pill for Buffalo to swallow to alternate after UPL's new deal. But hey, I guess maybe this is just what they'd be happy to see. And Buffalo, why wouldn't they just be happy to win, right? So I'd see it as 50-50. Let's not second guess what we're actually seeing, which is just straight up back and forth, back and forth. And if Levi continues to nail his starts and UPL continues to kind of flub his, maybe Levi has a shot at pulling away and being more than, a tandem or even more than a 1A if Luukkonen can't get it together. If goalies are super scarce in your format, this is a moment where, like in formats where Dostal's gone, Levi might not be. And so you might want to jump on that just to see where things go.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I'm not going to go so far as, that's a lot of ifs that you said, which I do think that logic does follow. I think at the very least, we're looking at a tandem. I don't want to get even more ahead of myself. Like, actually, maybe Levi's the starter soon. But I will say that in a league like the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patriot Fantasy League, where volume is king, unless maybe you're like, fine. When Boston had Ullmark and Swayman, it was worth it to have both of them just because they got so many points when they played. But I don't know. Like, we might be getting to a point soon. It depends on your style of play. You might have to cut bait on a high pick and drop Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. If we see another like couple games where they're alternating, like why are you holding on to a goalie that might only get you one game on a week where the team plays 3 times? So that might be the tough pill to swallow. I think Buffalo will be happy. That's to them, it's a nice pill because they have 2 good goalies. But maybe to the fantasy manager who drafted UPL, so what? It's like a vitamin for Buffalo, but it'll be what's a tough pill to swallow? What is that saying? What does that even mean? Like, is it just like it's like really big and it's challenging to swallow, or is it like tough to swallow because it's going to affect you in a negative way and you wish you didn't have to swallow it?
I don't know. I've never thought that hard about it.
Okay,
I
well,
would
someone
say
let us
it's
know.
like it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
Well,
it's
probably
still
just 'cause-
but in the end, like if you're taking a pill that if it's uncomfortable, it's still going to be helpful.
well, sure.
Ideally, so
I
a
hope
tough
so,
pill
unless
to
it's
swallow doesn't capture that piece in the idiom.
Yeah, we'll figure it out for next episode. We had a question from Joey on our Discord asking who will be better between Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and Sam Ersson for the rest of the season. Most people were voting UPL. Obviously, based on like draft ADPs, UPL is the obvious answer, but I'm seriously considering that Ersson might be the answer here because, like I said, I think that UPL might be a secret tandem already, and Ersson is clearly the better goalie in Philly. They already said that he's their guy, like going into the season. And then Philly's played 2 games now. Ersson played well in his game, and Fedotov was not so great in his game. And obviously, it's just the start. And Fedotov is like only his 2nd NHL game, so maybe it'll take him time to acclimate, and he'll eventually be as good as he was in the KHL. But I think like Philly might be just as good a team as Buffalo, if not better. And I think Ersson might play more games. So why wouldn't you want Ersson over Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen? So yeah, that's my answer. I don't know if that's controversial or not. What do you think?
I think I would probably hazard the same. Like if you're looking for volume or honestly in every category, yeah. I'm just gonna go with yeah. At this moment, I would take Ersson above Luukkonen. I wonder if Luukkonen's upside is like I'm trying to think of the argument for Luukkonen. Maybe it's that his upside is higher than Ersson's.
I mean, last year, yeah, well, Luukkonen was incredible last year, and he played most of the games. So that's the upside. I agree with you for sure. It's just like if Devin Levi is good, that kind of changes everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Buffalo, by the way, rolling some strange power plays recently. I guess trying to get themselves going here. They've had Jason Zucker and Owen Power on the top power play with Thompson, Dahlian, and Cousins. And that's meant that Alex Tuck has had to be on PP2 with some other guys. Though at the same time, Peterka has been injured and he may be back by the next game. So I wonder if we shouldn't read too much into any of the lines or power plays until we see what they do with a fully healthy roster. For what it's worth, Alex Tuck, even not on the top power play, still has 4 points in 4 games. So he's doing just fine. But yeah, I think it would be maybe a waste of time for us, Brian, to speculate too much about Buffalo lines when they're probably going to be shaken up again soon.
Yeah, well, with Peterka out and coming back, sure. But I think we did sort of warn that Alex Tuck got bumped around last season for reasons that didn't seem completely apparent and that he wasn't necessarily a lock next to Tage Thompson. It's nice that he's doing well anyway, but I don't know. Like I have him in one of my leagues, but I avoided him in some of my priority leagues, or he just fell far enough for me to grab. I'm not like Tuck could still like have an incredible season, but like I just don't love the fluctuation without explanation that has already happened this year that seemed to be a small theme last year. But we'll have to see how things shake out once Peterka's back. You mentioned Zucker and Power. Jack Quinn, I dropped. That's it.
Yeah, I think Buffalo's might again like be a frustrating team. Like it would be nice if once everyone's healthy, we can get like a set situation that we can set our watch to, and then some guys can just start like producing in a reliable way, and we could sort of be done with always speculating about what's going to happen in Buffalo. So we'll need at least another week before we can touch base and say anything definitive. Another goalie similar to Devin Levi that got a surprising start last week was Joel Blomqvist, who got a start for Pittsburgh. Jari got blown up in game 1. Then Blomqvist got the second game, but then Blomqvist also got a second game in a row. This is, of course, with Nedeljkovic injured. So Blomqvist is a high pedigree prospect. I don't think anyone expected to get significant NHL time so far. But yeah, he's had 2 games now, and Blomqvist has been decent, not incredible. He's had 3 goals against on 32 shots in each of his games. It's a .906 save percentage. I'm pretty sure that's above average with today's NHL, especially for the first week of the season. I know that's very above average because so many goalies have been so terrible. It's probably too early to recommend jumping on Blomqvist. I'm curious to see if Jari will be able to bounce back. It's only been 1 bad game, of course. Pittsburgh plays 4 times next week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So I'd expect Jari to play Monday, and we'll see how it goes. Kind of similar to Georgiev, who also has the same schedule next week. I'm going to be watching closely, and if Jari continues to struggle, I wonder if that job could be lost at some point. The thing with Jari is they stink. And also with Pittsburgh, I'm sure they're remembering last year, they missed out on the playoffs by 1 standings point, right? 1 or 2. So it's they can't afford to be let's give Jari some time to fight. They need to win every game possible in order to have a chance at the playoffs. So if they go, if Blomqvist is winning, kind of why not? I could understand giving Jari maybe the next game, but if he flubs it again, why not just play Blomqvist until he blows it, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say there's been a bit of a Wolf Vladar vibe in the Pittsburgh net, though. Again, Jari's expected Fenwick save percentage 906, Blomqvist's 951. Higher means you're getting better protection, so
Right.
that's a 45 save point. Pittsburgh has shut it down for Blomqvist, and he has actually been pretty bad. At 5-on-5. Based on his expected numbers. So Pittsburgh really protected him very well, and he didn't do very well considering the protection he got, whereas Jari still didn't quite play up to the protection he got, but didn't get very good protection in the first place. So he was hung out to dry in that first game. And I think there were moments last year, Jari has the worst edit. And some of it is deserved. There have been some really crucial moments where he's let the team down, but there have been a lot of times, including last year, including the first game of the season, where Tristan Jari played well and no one around him did. So I'm just gonna put it out there that I don't think Blomqvist is going to be someone who steals the job from Jari. I'm with you, Elon, that Pittsburgh probably just wants to play the guy who's winning, because winning every game is going to be very important, and I think coach is probably on the hot seat too, and so needs to get creative or make it look how hard he's trying. I think we'll see what really happens once Nedeljkovic is healthy, and then I think we might have a legit crease competition then. Even then, I still think Jari's the better goalie, but he just has to be able to show it, and the team has to play well in front of him too.
Yeah, I'll just say, and this is again maybe just emotions, I'm so happy I don't have Jari. I drafted him last year. It was so annoying, and I just think he's not good, and I know that you're saying that he played well at even strength compared to his whatever protection. I don't know. I'm happy I don't have him. I'm not saying that I want Blomqvist either. I'm just happy to not have either, not have to worry about it. By the way, in Pittsburgh, maybe to help out, Brian Rust is back. So that's good. He went right to the top line, top power play versus Toronto. Didn't get a point. I know a lot of patrons are super high on Brian Rust. I've never been able to really bring myself to be as excited about Brian Rust as a lot of the patrons are. But I know good news for people who like him, because you'll get him back in your lineup. He's another guy I'm happy I didn't draft. I don't want Brian Rust. I don't know. What's wrong with me, Brian?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you need to update your Brian Rust. I think when he's playing and healthy, I think he's last season was pretty up and down. Let me put it this way. This season, actually earlier today, I'm in a league where I only get 25 moves for the year. I have an empty roster spot. Paterka's on IR, and if I add someone now, then I can just keep Paterka healthy on my IR for a while and let things play out. And that way I sort of have my next ad already made.
Who are the options? Yeah.
So
Rust is there?
Rust was one of my choices, and I actually added him. I'll tell you who the other options were. You're definitely going to say that I should have added Teravainen over Rust.
I don't know. I think they're
Okay.
similar.
No, I'm glad to hear it. The guys who I was really considering
I'm sure
alongside
most people
Rust,
even say that's like crazy that I'm even saying that. They're like, what are you talking about? Rust is so much better than Teravainen.
yeah, I think he is. Like I said, I thought you were going to say, so I'm relieved that you're not. Like that you're. I mean, I'm not sorry. I think it would be valid and reasonable. Like I feel like your stance, which is often right, would have been Teravainen's comparable. The guys that I really chose Rust over were Dylan Strome, Nick Schmaltz, and Quinton Byfield. That was like and I think they're all going to be pretty similar. This is like a straight up points league with a small bonus for goals scored. That's I'm happy with Brian Rust. I think they're all pretty close to one another, to be honest.
Fair enough. Yeah. So we'll see what Pittsburgh's able to do this year. I need definitely some more data. That's one of the teams where I'm really just not sure how to think about these guys. I know that Malkin's given me, I think, 3 assists in 3 games now. I'll take it for a late pick.
Yeah, Raquel. You've already mentioned, I'm sure, on the Maximizer, which I just haven't listened to yet. But you've got Beauvillier and Raquel, right, with a great schedule this week. So
yeah,
there's that.
Oh, I didn't even mention Raquel because I assumed he's rostered everywhere. But yeah, definitely go grab Raquel if you can for the great schedule. Okay, let's stay in net here to continue talking about goalies that I didn't expect to do anything that are doing stuff. Over in San Jose, how about Vitek Vanacek? What a game versus Anaheim, letting only 1 goal, like over 30 shots. Was it over 30? Letting only 1 goal. I guessed it. I don't know why I even tried to guess it. I think I recall seeing that it was like on a lot of shots. Vitek Vanacek. I'll just retake the whole thing. It was 29 shots. Good thing I checked. Continuing with goalies that have been playing well or getting games I didn't expect them to get or didn't expect them. Okay. Continuing on with some more goalies like Blomqvist, like Levi, who are doing things I didn't expect. How about Vitek Vanacek yesterday for San Jose? Didn't get the win over Anaheim because the Sharks couldn't score any goals, but only 1 goal against on 29 shots. For Vitek Vanacek, is that real? Like normally he lets it, if there's 29 shots, I would expect like 5 or 6 goals against based on how he played last year. I know that there was some word that he was like dealing with injury. I wonder if, because Vanacek like a couple years ago was like okay, and I'm not saying now, yeah, he's had 1 good game, like he's a superstar or anything, but I think like it's possible that Vanacek is actually fine. Like he's a, NHL goalie, which he didn't look like last year. Blackwood looked fine in his first game, at least for the first couple periods. Then things kind of fell apart. I think it's going to be a very interesting season for the Sharks in net because they've obviously got Askarov in the minors ready to come up and take over one day. If it's this season or next season, I don't know. But Vanacek and Blackwood are both free agents. We have a bunch of other teams we've talked about, like Colorado struggling in net, can't get a save to save their life. I wonder if like San Jose is just going to hope to give Vanacek and Blackwood a bunch of games and hope one of them can get some decent trade value and get them a nice return before they become UFAs at the end of the year. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't think that there's going to be like Blackwood gets all the starts. I think like the one thing about this Vanacek good game is like reminds us that he's there. And I could see that being 50-50, especially just because San Jose is not trying to win anything this year anyway. So why not try to pump up Vanacek's trade value? Is that like me getting into too like conspiracy theory mindset here?
I mean, I think the Sharks' goal by the end of the season is to probably sell either of their goalies or both and make room for Askarov next year. And I think if Vanacek continues to do well, I think that basically ensures Askarov is going to be working in the AHL if it was ever really a question. It's kind of annoying that Vanacek is competing with Blackwood, who would have been great for volume otherwise. But hey, this is it. There's just one more way we fail to find value in the San Jose roster. But also knowing Vanacek, he might not be able to do this he's been so inconsistent, right? And in a 50-50 setup, he can sometimes keep up reasonably well. So we'll see what happens in future starts. I still think Blackwood is probably more likely to play games than Vanacek, but it might not be enough of an edge to make Blackwood worth rostering over Vanacek if you're looking for volume.
Yeah, and sticking with San Jose, obviously sad news that Celebrini is out week to week, so it might be a little while before we see him. Such a nice game to start the season for the rookie. He had a goal and an assist versus St. Louis. Now we're gonna have to wait a while before we see Macklin again. In the meantime, if you want to know the lines, it was Granlund on the top line versus the Ducks, centering to Foley and Eklund, and then Zetterlund with Will Smith and Klim Kostin. And the top power play was Granlund to Foley, Zetterlund, Eklund, Wallman. So I think that like is the summary of the Sharks that you should be interested in. Like they have 4 games next week. It's a pretty good schedule for San Jose. So I'll just repeat that. Toffoli, Granlund, Zetterlund, Eklund, Jake Wallman on defense. I think all of them are pretty good bets for you. But at the same time, it is the Sharks, so don't go too crazy. I like Mikhail Granlund. He didn't get a point, obviously, yesterday versus Anaheim, but he did take 5 shots, and Granlund also took 4 shots in Game 1 versus St. Louis, where he also picked up an assist. It was a power play assist. Don't forget, last year, Mikhail Granlund paced for 71 points. It's kind of like a Uyghur thing, where it's like he ended so well. It's like, there's no way he can keep that up, like going into next season. And like, so we'll see, obviously. But I think Granlund is someone that if he's still available to, I mentioned him in Matchup Maximizer as like my top streaming pick if you can get him. He's probably taken in a lot of like serious leagues, but in a shallow, no, I shouldn't say serious, like deeper leagues, but in a shallower league, you might be able to get Granlund, and I like him. But obviously, I would have liked him more. You know, I don't care about like him being on the second line instead of the first line if Celebrini's around. I think everyone's better if you have Celebrini, especially, you know, if you're playing with him on the top power play. So that's my current take on San Jose. I don't really know if I have a question for you there, Brian.
Yeah, your take, I'll just summarize your take, is remember Mikhail Granlund, which I think is a good take.
Yeah, and grab any Shark that's on the top power play if you can get one and you need a streamer. Okay, so let's move on now to one of Celebrini's Calder competitors in Logan Stankoven, who had a great start to his season. 3 assists versus Nashville. Nothing yesterday versus the Islanders, but Stankoven was on the top line, top power play instead of Wyatt Johnston. But it looks like Dallas is playing today, and we've got a whole new set of lines that the Stars are running with. Today they've got Evgeny Dodonov on the top line with Hintz and Robertson. What? And then Wyatt Johnston is with Stankoven and Jamie Benn, and then Tyler Seguin with Duchesne and Marchment. This is a deep team. Like, man, compared to like, you know, Pittsburgh and Colorado. Yeah, it's like, wow, like this is how you build a team where you're afraid of all the top 3 lines. But yeah, I wouldn't read too much into it in terms of long term, just because Maverick Bourque is injured. And I recall in preseason, they had Stankoven and Bourque together with Ben. So I wonder if they'll go back to that and then maybe go back to Johnston on the top line. Regardless, if you're worried about Wyatt Johnston, he did score a goal today. And it's assisted by Ben and Stankoven. So that line is, I mean, we saw Johnston was in the spot last year, though it was surprising that Johnston wasn't even on the top power play in the last game. Let's see. Has Dallas gotten a power play yet today? Maybe this is getting too in the weeds. Yeah. So it looks like Seguin, Stankoven, Duchesne has been one, and then Johnston has been on the one with Jason Robertson. So there you go. I don't know. The lines are going to change. That's all I'm saying. But I'm saying that don't get nervous about the lines. That's what I'll say.
This segment has been Elon reassuring himself about Wyatt Johnston.
I don't even have him. I have him in our Dynasty League where we don't care about it for a couple years.
Yeah, but you really, I think you're like really invested in his success, right? Like you've planted a flag, like you believe like big in Wyatt Johnston, as you should. And so let's not overlook, he's got a 3-game point streak to begin the season already with the goal tonight against Seattle. He's not shooting a ton. He had 4 shots in his first game, nothing in his second, but an assist. That's good. We'll just keep an eye out. It's not like Wyatt Johnston hasn't been the slam dunk sure thing fantasy roster, like 3rd or 4th round pick that we wanted him to be yet. So he's still 21 years old. There's still time for him to grow even within the season. And he hasn't quite gotten the deployment we were hoping Wyatt Johnston would get. Let's just, I think we'll just have to wait and see how things develop and maybe just stay open to the possibility. Like if you have him and you know someone else in your league is super excited about him, maybe you've already, like just seeing that he's not a lock on the top line is enough to start shopping and see if you can maybe do a bit of a lateral swap just to absolve yourself of that risk.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I get what you're saying. No, for sure. I also started this segment talking about Stankoven. So to finish on him, now he's up to now with this assist today, 4 assists in 3 games. So definitely he's looking like he's going to have a big season this year. And yeah, it'll be fun once Bourque is healthy to get some like solid lines that we can depend on here. But maybe Stankoven is even a challenge to Wyatt Johnston's top power play spot as soon as this year. which would obviously, be a hit to Johnston for sure. You're right, Brian. Another guy who I thought was going to be a sure thing for a top power play going into the season was Quinton Byfield, but he's been on the second power play over in LA. But just like Wyatt Johnston, hasn't stopped them from getting his points. Byfield has 2 assists in 2 games so far, so good for him. And we'll see how long it takes before he bumps Alex Laferriere from the top power play, who I brought up as one of your top streamers also for next week if you can get him, with LA playing 4 times. One guy I just want to bring up quickly on LA though, who we haven't talked about yet. Trevor Moore, Brian, had a goal and 7 shots yesterday versus Boston. I feel like every year lately, Trevor Moore is good. Like last year, he was good like the whole season, and we were always like, it's probably not going to last. Where's your mindset now with Trevor Moore? Are we still on the not big believers in Trevor Moore train, or is this the year where we're finally going to show Moore the love that others have for him? We're going to join.
More love for Trevor Moore. He's never had a sustainably good shooting percentage. It's actually been woefully low up until last season when Moore shot 13% at 5-on-5, notched 31 goals. The 2 years before that, Moore shot 5%. Yeah, even though it didn't look like he deserved 15% necessarily, just based on his expected goals and trying to how threatening, how great his chances were. Trevor Moore should have done better than 5%. So I think it was it looked sudden last year that he got 31 goals, but I don't think it was as sudden. It was just a long-awaited regression in shooting percentage. So far, Moore certainly has quantity, which equates in some respects to quality too. His expected goals rates are high. What's interesting is that Trevor Moore has only 10 minutes a night at 5-on-5 so far, because he's played 6 minutes combined on special teams, shorthanded and on the power play. I'm not sure yet how to read that, but Trevor Moore is very much on my radar, and I think should definitely be rostered with a good LA schedule week coming up. I think he flies under the radar because Trevor Moore is not a superstar name. Yeah, Elon, I think I think he's good for 20 or 25 goals, if not a steady hold all the way through. He will be if he keeps shooting the way he is, but then a very regular stream, maybe in the same category that Phil Deneau has found himself over the last couple seasons.
Yeah, it's funny. You started your thing being this is the year, and by the end you're he's a streamer at the level of Phil.
Well, no, I'm gonna put that.
Different.
I'm gonna put that as the basic, but I think every time you add Trevor Moore, there's a chance he's just gonna stay on your roster. How about that?
I mean, it does sound to me then you're not super high on him, because being super high on him would mean he's a guy you are going to roster all season.
It depends on your format. It depends on your format.
Do you think that Trevor Moore is going to fall to free agency for you in Cupful this year?
I think there's a chance. If in the Cupful, if you have 25 goals and 55 points, then yeah, in a bad schedule week, you might get dropped.
Yeah, so that'll be fun to track.
Do you think?
I guess. I think he's going to be a hold this year. That's my hunch. But what do I know? You're the expert. I trust you. So if you don't think so, then I'm with you.
We're equally experts. Get out of here.
Speaking of the Kings, let's bring up quickly Brandt Clarke, who was obviously everyone got so excited about him when Doughty got injured because he was going to get the top power play. So far, it's been a big bowl of nothing. I started saying this saying, I was going to say big bowl of meh or something, but actually that's I've been listening to this Curb Your Enthusiasm rewatch podcast, and Jeff Garland calls everyone a big bowl of nice, or a big bowl of this and that. It's annoying. Now it's in my lexicon. It's kind of, I'm actually annoyed at myself for having, part of me wants to make an edit point and take it again, but I'm just going to barrel through here and just say that Brandt Clarke so far, no goals, 1 shot, averaging 17 minutes a game, 1 hit, 5 blocks. That's something, I guess. I don't know. I'm not too into Brandt Clarke. I just wonder if, even when Drew Doughty is on the top power play in LA, he's generally not that incredible. He's rosterable. But now for Brandt Clarke, who's getting up, a fraction of the even strength minutes that Doughty's getting, I just don't know. I'm glad I didn't get him. I put a fab bid on him, and I got outbid by a significant amount, and I'm pretty happy that I just got Barrett Hayton instead. So that's where I'm sitting. Though I also did get Korpisalo with a big bid, and that was obviously a big woof. But I feel like Brandt Clarke might be similar to Korpisalo. Well, Korpisalo gave me negative points. At least you're not getting negative from Brandt Clarke.
No, but I mean, relative to the floor that you might expect from anyone else, it is kind of negative points. But
fair.
You're right, not in the same way. You know what? I don't think this rules out that Brandt Clarke can have an amazing season. He's got a month, maybe 2, maybe a little more. It's still kind of unclear. to prove himself, and the coaching staff made it clear that Brant Clark is not like going to be handed anything on a silver platter. So like you can be patient. Like I mean, on your roster, you might not be able to be patient, but I think just because he hasn't come out firing out of the gate, that doesn't mean that he's not going to find his way to being the guy we hope he can be at some point in the next 1 or 2 months. Someone to keep watching. I know someone in the Cupful dropped 51 fab on like out of 100. 51.
My div was 69.
Like when? At the
Like at the start of the season.
Okay, no, but this was like yesterday.
Oh, so,
yeah.
Wow. Good luck.
Yeah, like I think there's a chance. I mean, I don't think you would have had to really put that much down. I'm curious what the next highest bid was, but there's a chance that Brant Clark, if you're patient enough, he'll pay off. But early returns aren't great, and like I guess if this is a permission to drop situation, I think so. I think I might wait another game just to make sure.
Right. Well, LA has 4 games next week, so
yeah.
maybe it's a good reason to hold him for a good schedule week to really just, as long as he's on top power play, give him the week. Same with Adam Boqvist, by the way, who didn't do anything on top power play in Florida. Florida plays Monday, Tuesday to start next week. At least give him that, and then we can reassess. Maybe these top power play guys, you remember Kalen Addison being on the top power play in Minnesota, and it was like wasn't enough to make him worth rostering. So we'll see if these guys are Addison or better. But yeah, like there's like good defensemen you can get. Like I streamed in Jake McCabe for 3 games this week from the Leafs. He only had 1 assist in 3 games, but still around 10 fantasy points in 3 games, which is, a lot higher than so it's like 3 point something per game. Nothing crazy, but better than what you're getting from a Brant Clark or Adam Boqvist so far. So, these defensemen need to that aren't getting like peripherals and shots. You need a good number of points to be better than replacement, like 1 or 2 assists every couple games. So we'll see. Brian, the other guy on LA that I want to ask you about, you kind of gave me a conflicting answer about Trevor Moore. Have you had a
to. I like Trevor Moore. All right, I like Trevor Moore. You can.
So who do you like
him.
better, or who have you had a bigger turnaround for, Trevor Moore, or has there been a turnaround for Darcy Kemper? Or are you about to give a similar answer to Cam Talbot? Because Kemper's played 2 games now, and they've been fantastic. This is the LA bump here. He had 1 goal against on 33 shots in the win over Buffalo to start the year, and then took that heartbreaking loss to Boston 2-1 yesterday. But still, overall, we're looking at a 920. No, but. Overall, we're looking at a 948 save percentage for Darcy Kemper through 2 games. I know he's had a rough couple of seasons, but I just, that's the reason why I was into him. I like the goalies on LA tend to do well. I don't know. I'm excited about Darcy Kemper. I would definitely swap like Jari for Kemper, Georgiev for Kemper. A lot of these goalies we've talked about, I feel it's obvious.
That's super obvious if you have that opportunity. Darcy Kemper, so far this season, you mentioned like what, a 920 something save percentage. That's all situations. At 5-on-5, he's in 100. He has yet to let in
your favorite
a 5-on-5 goal. Darcy freaking Kemper. He's been very well protected, but he's still played very well. Like no one gets protected 100%, and Darcy Kemper has stopped 100% of the shots he's faced at 5-on-5. So way to go, Darcy Kemper. I'm not. I don't know. Good. What do you want me to say? Do you want me to say sorry? What am I supposed to say here?
Like, I just want to know your updated opinion. Do you think he's going to have a good season or not?
Good start.
Okay.
We'll
sell
see.
high. Brian says sell high.
I don't know that I'm even saying that yet. Which is a compliment to Darcy Kemper. Yeah,
that's
and
fair.
So maybe that's a turnaround for me. I don't know. I'm not ready. I don't think I'm. I haven't.
We'll
been
take another
around.
look. Yeah, LA plays 4 times next week, so we'll get a lot more of a sample size to look at when we come back here next week. Though we got to talk about some other players. We've already been doing. How long have we been going? Almost 2 hours. There's so much to talk about. It's so fun. I really like fantasy hockey, Brian. I don't know if you know. It's always so hard for me to pick and choose which players to talk about. I still got a bunch left. We'll just take a break. We'll come back. We'll finish it off. Okay. Final ad break. Okay, so yeah, we'll finish off maybe like 20 minutes or so.
I was hoping like even less.
Do you want me to like skip? Is there anyone you want to skip from this list?
I'm
happy to skip. Or we can just do like lightning round.
No, I think maybe just the lightning round. You just say them all.
Okay, and then you'll comment. Sure, sounds good. All right. All right, Brian, let's get back to some more goalies now. It's always fun to talk about the goalies that have disappointed us. I guess no goalie has been as disappointing. And as I say it, I'm like, that's not true. Georgiev has been more disappointing than Sorokin because while Sorokin hasn't played, he hasn't given you negative points. But obviously, Ilya Sorokin drafters may be a little bit frustrated that he's lost his IR eligibility, but has just been a backup so far behind Varlamov. Got to imagine that Sorokin will get a game in soon. I'm very curious what the workload will be, right? Like, I know it's because he's coming back from injury, and it's not necessarily because Patrick Waugh thinks like Varlamov is a better goalie. Varlamov did get blown up by Utah on Thursday. Actually, no, the Islanders aren't playing today. So yeah, we'll have to find out at some point what. Sorry, Thursday. Then Varlamov was solid, stopping 24 of 26 in the loss to Dallas yesterday. So yeah, Sorokin will get in at some point. We'll see what happens. But at this point, I think this might be a 50-50 to start. But honestly, it's like I have nothing to base that on except for the fact that Varlamov's gotten 2 games, which might just be because they're easing Sorokin back in. I would be nervous if I had him. But like, I guess at this point, you've already waited this long. You might as well start getting a couple games before being any more nervous.
Yeah, Varlamov hasn't been great, which is good news for Sorokin and anyone who's rostered him. I think what confused me is coming into the season, they said Sorokin is good, like he's 100% and good to go, and they haven't started him. Now, like, I don't really understand the context of that fully. Like, I'm not sure what the delay is if he was 100% to start. And you know what, drafting him, he fell enough in drafts that you might still be really happy you did it. It seemed like a good idea at the time. It still could be. It's a little disheartening that Sorokin doesn't start in your first fantasy matchup, but I hope we get to see him play soon, and I hope we get to see him play a couple games in a row like Varlamov has soon, so that we can get a sense for what the rhythm in the Islanders' crease will be. Again, the good news for Sorokin managers is that the door is wide open because Varlamov has been meh.
All right, Brian, just to break your brain a little bit, let's say you have Kemper. Would you send an offer to the Sorokin manager right now? I'll bet you could get an accept by like at least 50%.
I don't, okay. Okay. Volume? No. Rate stats? Yes. How about that?
Okay, we'll find out.
I think Kemper's going to play more games than Sorokin.
Yeah, but you think he's going to play worse?
But I think Sorokin is going to play really well in the games he plays.
And what about
and I mean, not
how
to
does
say
LA
Kemper,
compare? How does LA compare to the Islanders in terms of like how many games
wins
they'll win?
and
Probably similar, right?
LA will, I think, be better. I don't know by how much.
Yeah, so definitely this is my like, buy high, sell low strategy. Like I'd take Kemper, just take the safer bet. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so last.
I think if you're
item,
taking Kemper, you might be able to ask for more. I don't know. That's an interesting question. What were their cupful ADPs? I'm gonna look that up while you go.
Okay, you look that up while I go to the next one. Yeah, I'll do our last news item here before we get to a little bit of a lightning round to finish things off. I haven't brought up Alex Barkov being hurt. I already talked about him yesterday on Matchup Maximizer. It looked bad to start, but it looks like he'll only be out 2 to 3 weeks. Still, Florida plays 4 times next week. Maybe there is some value to be mined. The guys that are potentially interesting are like an Evan Rodriguez or an Anton Lundell if you're in a super deep league. At this point, I guess you're not getting Sam Bennett in free agency, even in the shallow league. Sam Bennett has been so good, and now he's getting top power play guaranteed, at least for the short term with Barkov out. Brian, I was wrong. I said that I thought Sam Bennett was like, we had a question in the patron cast where we had to look at each other's rosters for Cupful and like give one negative and one positive. And my negative on yours was like, I think maybe Sam Bennett will end up being someone you end up dropping. I was against Sam Bennett this week in Cupful while I had Barkov. And even in the game Barkov played, Bennett did more. And then it was especially frustrating after Barkov got injured. But yeah, we're looking now at 3 goals and 1 assist in 3 games for Sam Bennett. An incredible start to the season. He's taking shots. He's hitting. He's doing all the things that you would want. So congrats to you and anyone who drafted Sam Bennett. He's looking really good.
Thanks. Yeah, it feels good to draft Sam Bennett. I'm looking, by the way, couple.com/tools if you want to see the ADP. Sometimes it's handy, like early on in trade, like thoughts and negotiations, because people are really attached to draft value still, or trade, like to try and determine trade. Sam Bennett had like a huge variance. He was drafted, the earliest he was drafted was 157th. The latest he was drafted, I think, was by Maddie at 249th overall. I got him closer to the front end of that, and I'm not regretting it. 190th overall on average for Sam Bennett. Yeah, great value there. I feel good about it. Kemper, by the way, 160th. Sorokin, ADP 117th overall. So I don't know. There
But
you
I think
go.
at this point, if there was a redraft, they'd go pretty similarly. That's my
Yeah,
hunch.
yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. And
You know
Sam
who
Bennett would go
stinks?
earlier.
Yeah. You know who stinks, by the way, Brian? I added this
Who?
week. I had 3 good free agent ads that I think might end up being even holds on my team for a while, and then I added Grubauer because I saw he was getting the start on like
Oh
Tuesday or
yeah, he
Wednesday or
stinks.
whatever. And then I saw like, oh, so I'll get the start, and I'll get another start on the weekend because they have a back to back. It's already like 2-0 for Dallas over the Kraken. Grubauer's doing poorly like usual. I'm gonna say it right now, and I want you to hold me accountable because last year I think I said, and I still went again. I'm not streaming in Grubauer anymore. Like I don't care. I don't care how many games he's gonna play. He
I
stinks.
I agree, and this is from someone who used to stream in Grubauer, thinking, yeah, if he plays well, he might play another and another and another. Like that's where I was with Grubauer, and now I have arrived at the same point as you, which is that I won't even spot start him. Like there are
Yeah,
goalies around
yeah.
the league who it's like even when they're starting, I don't want them. Grubauer is officially one of them.
Yeah, like if I could stream in like Paul Cotter for the same number of games as Grubauer, give me Paul Cotter, okay? Because at least he'll get peripherals and he's on a hot streak. That's where I am right now, and that takes us to our lightning round to end. And yeah, Brian, quick take on Paul Cotter. Okay, he continues to. He didn't only do well in Prague. Paul Cotter, a guy who New Jersey acquired. What was it for Alex Holtz and Akira Schmid? And I remember thinking at the time, seems like a high price for Paul Cotter, but he scored in each of those games in Prague, and then he scored 2 goals against Washington on Saturday with 4 shots. Obviously, I'm not saying Paul Cotter is a season-long hold, but with New Jersey playing 4 times next week, is it time to give him some respect? Should I have had him as a higher level, like top streamer for next week in Matchup Maximizer yesterday?
Yeah, I don't know. I truly don't know. Like there were times in Vegas last year where Paul Cotter was like, yeah, he's on the top line, and you want him while he's on the top line. He's I don't know. He turns 25 next month. Uh yeah, drafted in the fourth round in 2018. I'm trying to like find something to go off of, and I think where I've personally landed with him, he's got 4 goals on 8 shots over 4 games. He hits, that helps. Occasionally blocks, but I think the thing that turns me off Paul Cotter the most is that 2 of his 3 games he's played fewer than 11 minutes. One of them was 13 minutes, and then the second game in Czechia, he played almost 17 minutes. But that's the true outlier. Like this is someone who's seeing basically bottom 6 and even fourth line minutes, and that makes me cool to Paul Cotter. It's amazing actually that he has as many shots as he does in such limited ice time. But yeah, I don't think you're missing anything with Paul Cotter, but I await to see how he makes me regret saying that on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll see. I think I give him a shot for Monday, Tuesday if you have the spot, but yeah, don't expect anything crazy. Back to Seattle, by the way. Jordan Eberle, 2 goals and 1 assist in his 2 games. That's a guy that might be available for people. Also, I just saw today that Vince Dunn is injured. He's day to day with an upper body injury. I guess not much you can do about it. Probably Montour's already drafted in your league, so he'll just get more power play time. But yeah, just wanted to share that news item. I don't know if there's anything actionable there. I'll throw a few other lightning round things for you, Brian, and then you can comment on all of them if you'd like. Over in St. Louis, I wanted to bring up how like all of their defensemen, or at least 3 of them, are looking like really good. Like obviously Justin Falk has been a revelation for like anyone who got him late in their drafts so far. Really happy with the results. 4 points in the 3 games to go along with 4 shots and 5 blocks and 3 hits. So Justin Falk really doing the thing, and he's been the top power play guy. But then also like Colton Parayko, who is someone that without getting power play, you would think like what's his value, but like with the peripherals, Parayko is making himself rosterable, and he's someone that I'd be curious to know if you think he could end up being like he's again like someone like are you gonna go with a Boqvist or a Brent Clark, or do you just go with a solid like Colton Parayko who doesn't get on the top power play? But right now we're looking at 2 assists in 3 games to go along with 9 shots and 9 blocks. Like you're getting those points in other ways that at some point like 9 shots, that's like an assist in a cupful is 3 points. It's over an assist. So I don't know. Do the math yourself, I guess, and decide if that's worth it for you. And also, the newest St. Louis Blues defenseman, Philip Broberg, having a nice start. 3 points in 3 games. So maybe this guy was always good and just he needed more minutes, and now St. Louis is giving it to him, and he's producing. So we'll see if that will last. But I think if you need a defenseman, look to St. Louis. There's some options out there.
Yeah. I have Pareko in one league and Falk in another, and I'm pleased to have them both. I don't know, like let's see how the next week or two goes because we weren't expecting to have big fantasy value from any of these guys. Although Falk had the upside, he's someone I'm really interested to see if he can keep this up. Pareko, I just like to keep filling cats, and anything Broberg does is basically a bonus. So, I this is value, especially in shallower leagues. These are guys that most have overlooked, and we're generally like I found all Blues were going later than they should because there seems to be this just general feeling that no one in St. Louis is going to perform up to their upside, which may still be true, but that means for now maybe Falk, Pareko, and Broberg are options for you.
Sorry, one sec. Okay. All right, and to finish off, I'll just end with a couple star players that are maybe doing even better than expected to start. And I'm curious to get your take on if you think that there is like a higher level to these guys than what we saw last year. Over in Winnipeg, Mark Scheifele, an insane start to the year. Now that this game versus Minnesota is over, I see Scheifele scored a goal and had a power play assist in overtime, bringing him now to 6 points in 3 games. Scheifele was also taking so many shots. So in game 1, 4 shots, in game 2, 6 shots. Now today, only 1 shot. So I guess that's regressing a little bit back, but still an insane start for Mike Scheifele. And then over in Ottawa, our guy Tim Stützle, 2 goals in game 1, a goal in game 2. I guess this is similar to the Gunther or the Cole Caulfield. Like when you look at the shooting percentage, it's 50% right now or less, more than 50%. 3 goals on 5 shots for Tim Stützle, but he is a superstar player. And I'm wondering, like, are people like Scheifele and Stützle people that you try to sell now? You know, see if you can get like a huge return with their hot starts, or is it like maybe they actually are going to end up performing better than when they were getting drafted on average?
No, I'd like to hold on to like, and I'm not sure how much better you can do. Like if you can trade, like I would trade up for these guys, but like I wouldn't trade down. I'm not sure exactly what like how you'd sell high on them. To be honest,
Stützle was getting drafted in like the 3rd round, I think, or even the 4th round in cupful leagues on average. Like he last year wasn't like that incredible, right? He only had 70 points in 75 games, a far cry from his 90 points a couple seasons before. So I think going into this year, people were maybe expecting, around like 80-ish points.
Sure. But you're
like
saying
three goals to start the year. Like maybe some people are thinking he's back to 90-point Stützle. Maybe that's how I should have asked it to you.
Yeah, but if you're trading him, like you're trying to get value like from someone who was drafted before him, right?
Yeah.
So like, but I don't know who that is.
So you're saying that you think that Stützle isn't like better than where he was drafted, and you're not like going to read too much into this.
He might be.
Start.
He might be, but I don't think you're going to get, like, he was 35th overall on average in the cupful. I don't think you're going to get the guys who went before him: Barkov, Meyer, Reinhart, Bedard, Point, Thompson, Crosby, Hyman, Eichel, Gensel, Robertson.
Maybe you could make a trade. I mean, yeah, I just wanted your general take on him, but like, I mean, look at like a Bedard, or sorry, look at like a Barkov who's injured right now. You don't think that the Barkov manager might be tempted by Tim Stützle, who's got 3 goals in 2 games and is healthy? I think that's potentially a trade that you could make.
If you can get Barkov and a little bit on top of that, absolutely.
Well, they both were 35th. Bit on top of that. Who said
they
that?
were both they were both 35th overall. So most people had a choice between Barkov and Stützle and took Barkov by a hair. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I took Barkov not by a hair, but now I don't know.
Would you trade him for Stützle?
I mean, I want to know from you if his 3 goals is
if his 3 goals in 2 games on 5 shots is sustainable. No, he's not going to have 3 goals every 2 games.
Like, where do you think he's going to end? Do you think we're going to look at more like last year with 77-point pace? I think or like 2 years ago with 95.
I believe in Stützle being getting back to like a 90-point pace this year. I think he can do it.
And then, Scheifele. I mean, it's only 3 games, but 6 points in 3 games. Scheifele's best ever season is a 92-point pace, but that was only when playing 56 games. His actual high is 84 points. Is it possible? Like 32-year-old Mark Scheifele is going to, break that? It's an incredible start. 6 points in 3 games.
Yeah. great start. We'll see. I love to see like that he has 11 shots through 3 games. That is a break. That's a departure from where he's generally been taking shots. All helped by 6 shots against Chicago in Winnipeg's second game of the year. If he can throw a 6-shot game up there every so often, that would be great. Usually he's like a 2 and a 2.5 shot per game guy. So I think that's the piece to watch with Scheifele. If he's shooting more, he's a really he's always been a highly efficient converter, like 16 to 18% shooting percentage. So the more shots, so long as he's not trading off quality for quantity, that's something to potentially get excited about.
All right, and with that, Brian, obviously there's still more teams, more players we could talk about. I think we got to put a pin in it here. Like I said, a lot of good stuff coming. We're going to have 2 fun short shifts episodes this week. I'll do another matchup maximizer next weekend, and then we'll be back again next Sunday to break down all the action once again. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening. Hope you enjoyed our first regular season episode. I love putting these together and coming up with the players to talk about. Love getting Brian's takes on all these guys. I've had a blast. If you liked it, we would love for you to subscribe and get every episode auto-downloaded. We'd also love a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. If you could be so kind, now is the time of year where you can really help us out with like minimal effort, right? A subscribe or a review actually like goes a pretty long way in helping us out and helping us, keep powering these episodes. Of course, you could join our Patreon community. We're having so much fun over on Discord. So if you're interested in that and maybe some other perks you might find interesting, you can find it all at keepingkarlsson.com/patron. But with that, Brian, I'm good to cue the outro music. And then why don't you go ahead and read us the credits?
All right. This episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dobber Hockey and powered by our patrons, including our super supporters. Our first supporter ever, Patty, is also automatically a super supporter, but yeah. Ricard, David, Ryan, Tom, Zach, Andrea, Sammy, Philip, Aaron, Patrick, Brian, Michael, Roman, Top Cheese, Paul, and Richard. Thank you, Elon and Shams, for all the fancy news coming on GameDayTweets.com. Thank you to our Cupful coordinator, Kevin A. Barra, and Jay Brew for helping us out with the Cupful so far this season. We talk too much about it, so I'm gonna leave it there. If you played in it, then we would be talking about you. I think that's the solution.
That's true.
Here.
That's a good point.
Thanks to the Short Shifts crew, who's just getting started this year. Lewis, Jeremy, Shams, Derek, Elizabeth coming up. Thank you all. Logo art by BrandonWeeb.com. Outro music by Pat Roach. This episode was researched with help from Dobber Hockey, Frozen Tools, Dobber Prospects, Natural Stat Trick, Evolving Hockey, Puckpedia, The Athletic, HockeyGoalies.org, Hockey Reference, Hockey Viz, Hockey Database, Elite Prospects, and Yahoo.
Great job as always, Brian. Once again, I really had fun chatting with you. While we gear up for our second week matchups, any advice for any mindsets that we should have as we await more advice and data?
Yeah, how about an inclusive mindset? Do what you can to make sure that fantasy hockey is for everyone.
Krill.
What?
Krill.
What's that?
It's like cool, but with an R. Krill.
Do people who says that?
Me and my wife. We have some little things we say. I thought I'd share it with the world, but
Thanks.
the reception wasn't as great as I hoped it would be.
Did you take it from anywhere or?
I think that it might. These things are so hard to find, and Dean has a better memory than me. But remember how Serial, the podcast, had that person who would say MailChimp instead of MailChimp?
Yes.
I feel like we ended up coming up with a whole bunch of words kind of around that have now become part of how we talk to each other. Definitely, we say Kirill instead of Serial, and I don't know how Krill got in there, but. I don't know. I'm embarrassed.
Kaprizov.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's a good team name, except no one would get it but me, because I would just spell out his name without one of the I's.
Yeah, well, it's whale food. Krill.
What? Why didn't I draft Kaprizov instead of Draisaitl? Draisaitl seems like he's
cooked.
Should.
I think.
Where's my trade offers? When are they coming in?
Go make an offer. Do you want to talk about an offer now?
Too awkward.
Why?
I said on the show already. If you make an offer, then it's you really want to do it.
What
you gotta
division
get
are
the
you in again?
offer. Youngby.
Right. You don't want to. You don't want to look desperate.
I want the person to come to me, be like, "Oh, I heard you mentioning Draisaitl," and then I'll be like, "Well, I mean, I'm just trying to make good content. It's not like I actually believe it, but let me consider it," and then I can like sort of be in the driver's seat here.
I think you maybe. I think you want you. Do you want to look or no?
Like at what? What are you going to look at? Like
You-
whether to trade Kaprizov?
Look
I'm
for
sure
it.
they're not even going to do it.
Well, okay. Here's
So I
when
can give
they
Draisaitl
won't.
plus.
They no, they won't do it if you offer it straight up. That's desperate.
Okay, so how do you get it? Oh, you do a 2 for 2.
Yeah, you'll have to
Then
add
I
some
have to-
other guys.
I don't want to add like that's
You know,
embarrassing.
Jacob Chikrin's done nothing this season. Are you
He's
interested?
played one game.
Jacob Chikrin? Oh, Drake Batherson looks like he sucks again.
Well, how is that helping me?
Well, you're looking for a guy who is unappealing based on his play so far to pair with Kirill Kaprizov.
And then who am I giving?
Okay, let's go back to your team.
So we're I was hoping you're just gonna tell me like stick with Draisaitl. He's incredible.
You want Kaprizov. I'm trying to help you get Kaprizov. But no, I think you stick with Draisaitl and you're happy. I think you'll be just fine.
I feel like my main mistake was I like guys who shoot. I don't know, and then like I took a guy who doesn't shoot, but it was like the clear ADP. You know, you get what is ADP? I gotta be my own person. Maybe next time.
Draisaitl.
I'm happy for you
and
that you got Kucherov. You were lucky to pick 5th instead of 6th or 4th. That
Me-
was the place to be.
Then there's Pasternak. Like I think in the top, I think actually 4th was great, but I think any spot in the top 5 would have been better. Like I think 4th was the worst spot in the top 5.
Oh, you think so? I mean,
Well, just because like you've just missed a tier and you're starting the next tier. Like Kuch and Pasternak are like pretty similar, and you missed
I
out
don't
on the
know.
top 3.
okay, so 4th is the worst of the top 5, sure.
Yeah.
But then I'd still rather have that than 6.
Yeah, exactly. If I had to
I'm not
rank
in
the
this
top
elite
5
club.
pick positions,
That's like billionaires being like, "What's the worst of the $1 million
I'd
plus
go-
vacation spots?"
I'd go 1, 3, 2, 5, 4. That's the
1, 3, 2, 5, 4.
maybe
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 5, 4.
Yeah, I think I'd go 1, 2, 3, 5.
Yeah,
4.
probably 1, 2, 3, 5, 4.
This is fun. All
It's a
right,
fun
pal.
chat.
This was great. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Elon.
Oh yeah, we're still live.
We're live.
Bye. Thanks again. See ya.
Enjoy your krill.
I don't think I'm
Whales.
gonna have any. I don't eat it by myself. It's a tandem thing. All right, I'm gonna end the stream. See ya. End stream. Did it end?